Chapter 1062. So what? It doesn't matter if I have any flaws because you can't attack me. Gu Qingshue's emotions quickly calmed down. She remained unmoved. You still don't know? I've gradually gotten used to your speed, and seeing your flaws means that I can already attack you. Yi Chen thought. Hiss. Gu Qingxue turned into lightning and instantly disappeared. If you don't have any flaws, then I'll create one. Gu Qingshue's right palm contained a fist-sized water ball, crystal clear. Thunder and water profound martial art, hidden water thunder. Rumble. Like a mountain torrent, like thunder descending, like the destruction of heaven and earth. In front of Gu Qingxue was chaos, which was full of explosions and ripping air currents. Did Green Lightning King win? A thought flashed in Akiji King's mind. Not yet. Qi Hongyan's eyes narrowed. Hiss. The mountain torrent split apart, the thunder dispersed, and the world became clear. Yi Chen stood in the center of the arena, looking straight at Gu Qingxue, who was half a meter above the ground. That pair of eyes contained countless traces, as if all of Gu Qingshue's secrets couldn't escape from his eyes, and were instantly analyzed. Not good. Gu Qingxue turned into lightning, and with a hiss, she flew away. There are more and more flaws in your defense. Her body moved a few steps, and the Demon Slayer's sword drew a complete circle from bottom to top, in which the electric field was temporarily isolated. Poochie! A smear of blood splattered, and with a muffled groan, Gu Qingxue held her left arm and flashed dozens of li away. Traces of blood slid down the fingers of her right hand, and Gu Qingxue looked at Yi Chen in a daze. He was hit. Green Lightning King was hit? Really? To be hit at such a fast speed, this can't be done with sword speed alone. Everyone felt a chill in their hearts. Was it an accident, or Gu Qingxue gritted her snow-white teeth, and once again attacked Yi Chen? Blood splattered, and a left arm flew out. Gu Qingshue's figure staggered back, as if due to the injury. Her speed wasn't as fast as before. Swish, 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 swish. Although Yi Chen's speed was not as fast as Gu Qingshue's, his footsteps were erratic and unpredictable, accompanied by his unparalleled sword speed. Clang! Sparks erupted from her chest as Gu Qingxue was flung backwards. She coughed out a mouthful of blood and bits of flesh. Because she was wearing a high-grade armor artifact, the sword attack failed to penetrate her heart. However, the terrifying sword force had penetrated through the armor and instantly shattered her heart. The heart was one of the most important parts of the human body. It was the source of qi and blood. Once it was lost, all aspects of one's body would be affected. Unless one could immediately form a new heart when the heart was destroyed, it was a pity that the human body had all kinds of senses. When the heart was destroyed, there would be some discomfort and sluggishness. My next strike will be your head. Once they entered a real battle, Yi Chen would not show any mercy. He believed that his opponent would not accept his opponent going easy on him. This was a form of humiliation. The sword slashed through the air, slicing open a gap in the electric field. A trace of blood appeared on Gu Qingshue's neck. That was the reaction of the sharp sword qi. It had cut through her skin first. This is the first time I, Gu Qingxue, am being looked down upon by someone. Electricity explosion. TSS, 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 TSS. Gu Qingxue released a large amount of electricity, which reacted with Yi Chen's life magnetic field and directly penetrated his protective True Yuan, acting on Yi Chen's body. Boom! Electric snakes danced chaotically, lighting up the entire arena. Double hidden water thunder. That wasn't the end of it. Gu Qingxue condensed a fist-sized ball of lightning in each of her palms and blasted it towards the center of the explosion, which was also where Yi Chen was. What? He made a comeback in an instant? The situation has actually been reversed. The Green Lightning Monarch is the Green Lightning Monarch after all. Her thunder ultimacy has practically reached the pinnacle of perfection. Although that electric burst isn't very lethal against opponents of the same level, it can make them reveal a flaw and cause them to momentarily numb. Electric burst creates a flaw, and double hidden water thunder kills in one strike. Terrifying. Gu Qingshue's sudden eruption caught a lot of people off guard. Green Lightning Monarch, is this the result of your 3 years of hard work? Qi Hongyan sighed in shock. Gu Qingshue's eyes were extremely cold. This electric burst was originally prepared to deal with those few people, but now she had no choice but to reveal it. The opponent's power was beyond her imagination. Using the opponent's life magnetic field as an electric field. What a good electric burst! The electricity dissipated. In the arena, Yi Chen had already finished waving his sword. In front of him were 4 hidden water thunders that had been cut open. Puff! The hidden water thunders that had lost their integrity shattered. But this is what makes it interesting. Yi Chen raised his head. I've been seen through? A drop of cold sweat appeared on Gu Qingshue's forehead. Not really seen through, but this move of yours is indeed very powerful. I believe you still have a follow-up move. Being able to be ranked 4th on the Sky King list was not simple at all. She could be said to be a monster among monsters. A single profound might not be as powerful as a double profound, but it could be used to support attack. Forget it, I've lost this round. Dispersing the electric field, Gu Qingxue had no intention to continue fighting. She turned and walked down the first arena. Gu Qingxue had a feeling that even if she used all her skills, the chance of winning against her opponent was less than 10%. From the beginning to the end, her opponent did not give her any opportunity to take advantage of. It was completely her own play. Rather than giving her all to lose the battle, it was better to digest the insights she gained from the battle. Although Gu Qingxue admitted defeat, no one dared to laugh at her. If they were replaced by Yi Chen, they might not even be able to block a single move from Gu Qingxue. If they were replaced by Gu Qingxue, they would probably be in an even more miserable state. From the beginning to the end, they did not see how Yi Chen attacked. They only saw streaks of sword marks flashing by. This battle of the strong was full of climaxes and thrills. It was undoubtedly an eye-opener for those who remained. After losing to Yi Chen, Gu Qingxue chose to challenge the 10th arena. The 10th arena was the Battle of the White Tiger Star Field's Sky King list. The result was as expected. The opponent did not even manage to force Gu Qingxue into the Anata state before she was defeated. In the end, only the dark-skinned young man was left. Hee hee. The dark-skinned young man laughed and appeared on the 8th arena. I'm really in danger this time. The black-feathered leopard king did not dare to underestimate the dark-skinned young man. Judging from his appearance and age, he knew that he must be a very terrifying expert. After all, with such a high cultivation talent, how weak could his combat strength be? The two seemed to be two different concepts, but there was an inevitable factor. The second move, Hadouken. Boom! On the 10th arena, the protective shield shook violently. The violent energy exploded like a small sun. The sound and light effects alone were frightening. What kind of joke is this? It's so powerful. Not only were the spectators dumbfounded, but the black-feathered leopard king was also completely dumbfounded. He definitely did not want to bear that kind of explosive power. In an instant, the black-feathered leopard king entered the demon beast realm. At this moment, speed was the only thing he could rely on. Everything else was useless. The third move, Hadouken, random kill. The dark-skinned young man kept glancing around. With his amazing eyesight, he waved his slender arm and hundreds of high-pressure light balls were shot out. There was no way the black-feathered leopard king could dodge them. He crossed his arms to protect his vital parts, and the demonic power protective shield in front of him was strengthened to the limit. Bang 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 bang. The sounds of explosions were continuous. The black-feathered leopard king crashed hard into the protective shield of the arena, unable to fight back. With a grin, the dark-skinned young man used the second move, Hadouken, and blasted the black-feathered leopard king into a mist of blood. Vaguely, the crowd could see a small part of the protective shield of the arena protruding. Each and every one of them is a monster. Akiji King was a little disheartened. Originally, his ranking on the Heavenly King list was not low. He was ranked 13th, not far from the top 10, so he was confident that he could pass the test field of God. However, Yi Chen's appearance showed him the gap between them. The dark-skinned young man's appearance showed him what a monster was. Together with Gu Qingxue and Qi Hongyan, who had not shown much of her strength, there were 4 people. 4 monsters in one place. He no longer had any confidence in passing the test field of God. It's all right. I'm just here to take a look. Du Sha also did not think she had any hope. She smiled bitterly. Kid, you're very powerful, Qi Hongyan said to the dark-skinned young man while feeling annoyed. You're still far from me. The dark-skinned young man scratched his head like a teenager who had not seen the world for a long time. Cultivating hard in the mountains for several years, and then coming out to make a name for himself. This is the kind of person you are. Yi Chen could feel the pure heart of the dark-skinned young man, without any impurities. After passing the 4th test, everyone was teleported to a path. In front of the path was a huge square. At this time, there were already 10 people in the square. The arrival of Yi Chen's group of 10 attracted their attention. What a scary look! Among the 10 people, 2 of them had very scary looks. One was a swordsman and the other was a bladesman. The swordsman wore a long black robe embroidered with an azure dragon. His eyes were full of coldness and majesty. The bladesman was Bai Lihuan, the soul-slaying blade of the Vermilion Bird Star region. His whole body was like a volcano, exuding endless courage. Seeing Yi Chen, Bai Lihuan nodded. The strong deserved respect. There was no doubt that Yi Chen was a strong man. Yi Chen also nodded. His eyes moved from Bai Lihuan to the black-robed swordsman with the azure dragon embroidered on his robe. Their eyes inevitably collided. He is the Azure Dragon Swordsman of the Azure Dragon Star region, ranked 5th on the Heaven King list. On the side, Du Sha explained to him. The Azure Dragon Swordsman was the top swordsman of the younger generation in the 4 major star regions. The second was the Flawless Swordsman, Zhao Wuk, ranked 11th on the Heaven King list. When they arrived at the square, everyone stopped. After a while, more people came. Chapter 1063. There were still 10 of them. Among them, the most eye-catching were the Black Destruction King Zhou Jian and the Violent Queen Yan Feihua. One of them was ranked 3rd on the Heavenly King ranking, while the other was ranked 8th on the Heavenly King ranking. Even though there was no aura leaking out, they still stood out among the 10 of them. Then, the 4th group arrived. Among them, there were 4 eye-catching people. Ghost Genius Lu Wenxiu, the blue-robed swordsman, a white-robed young man with a light body, and a black-robed young man with a body as sturdy as a tyrannosaurus. He was more than 3 meters tall and exuded endless pressure. The blue-robed swordsman is Flawless Swordsman Zhao Wuk, ranked 11th on the Heavenly King list. His swordsmanship is flawless, and he comes from the White Tiger Star Field. The white-robed young man is Infernal Illusionist Li Yifeng, ranked 6th on the Heavenly King list. His attainments in illusions are even greater than Ji Qingyue's. He comes from the Azure Dragon Star Field. The black-robed young man is Yang Ting, ranked 2nd on the Heavenly King list. His true form is an iron-armored dragon, a true dragon with unparalleled strength. He can shatter a star with his most basic strength. He also comes from the Azure Dragon Star Field. Du Sha introduced to Yi Chen seriously. An iron-armored dragon. Yi Chen sized up Yang Ting carefully. Yang Ting sensed that someone was staring at him, so he glanced over. Pup! This one glance seemed to have pierced through the air as it shot toward Yi Chen. Hitting someone with a gaze sounded exaggerated, but it was indeed so. Du Sha's face paled slightly. Although this gaze was not aimed at her, nor was it offensive, the mental pressure it brought was enormous. Du Sha felt as if her soul was about to be knocked out. On the other hand, Yi Chen's expression did not change at all. It was as if this gaze was just a breeze that brushed past his face. Infernal illusionist Li Yifeng noticed this, and the corner of his mouth curled up. Soon, the fifth group arrived. There were 3 eye-catching figures in the 5th batch, namely the lifeless swordsman Ling Fifan, the illusionist of death Ji Qingyue, and a handsome young man who looked to be about the same age as the dark-skinned young man, about 16 or 17 years old. This handsome young man walked at the forefront, naturally emitting the aura of a king. As soon as he appeared, he became the center of attention, like a king of kings. Lifeless blade artist Ling Fifan, ranked 7th on the Heavenly King list, the number 1 blade artist of the 4 great life starfields. Hailing from the White Tiger starfield, my impression of him is still stuck at a few years ago. At that time, he made a stunning appearance and shocked everyone. After a few years, I'm afraid he already has the battle power to enter the top 3. I won't talk about Ji Qingyue, but as for that handsome youngster, he's quite amazing. He's the number 1 on the Heavenly King list, Peerless King Audiobook. Audiobook entered the life and death realm at the age of 24. Du Sha's voice lingered in his ear. Yi Chen nodded. With Du Sha's introduction and his first impression of them, he had a basic understanding of these geniuses. Peerless King Audiobook, just like his title, was peerless under the heavens, the King of Kings. Tyrannosaurus Yangting, synonymous with power. Black Destruction King Zhou Jian, brimming with a domineering aura. Green Lightning King Gu Qingxue, coming and going like lightning, heart like frost. Azure Dragon Swordsman Xiao Xiu, fierce and dignified. Illusionist Li Yifeng, dreamy and illusory. Lifeless blade artist Ling Fifan, cold and indifferent, unfathomable. Violent Queen Yan Feihua, cheerful and witty, full of mysteries. Platinum Witch Qi Hongyan, white-haired and tender, full of the essence of a witch. Soul Slasher Blade by Li Huan, volcanic courage. Flawless Sword Artist Zhao Wuk, flawless and without flaws, aura unnoticeable. Ghost Genius Lu Wenxiu, cynical and full of schemes. Death Illusion Master Ji Qingyue, indifferent to everything. Dark-skinned youngster, pure and innocent. The above 14 were the strongest in Yi Chen's eyes. The others were a lot weaker than them. Du Sha did not know what Yi Chen was thinking. If she did, she would say, "Forget yourself." In her eyes, Yi Chen was a stunning existence. She had never seen such a stunning swordsman. No, Yi Chen's appearance had redefined a swordsman for her. His sharp eyesight, calm and unruffled posture, unparalleled sword speed, untainted temperament, and ice-cold and merciless sword technique. This was a dreamlike swordsman. With the arrival of the 5th batch, the top geniuses of the 4 major life star fields had all gathered together. If the geniuses of the world were flowers, then the flowers here were all precious species, competing with each other for beauty. Ordinary kings would definitely feel ashamed of their inferiority and dazzle here. In front of the plaza was a stone bridge, and at the end of the bridge was a large door. That was the entrance to the 5th stage. Everyone stepped onto the stone bridge and walked toward the door. Creak. The door opened automatically. Inside was an alley. Although it was called an alley, it was actually huge. This alley was 1,000 meters wide, and no one knew how long it was. One could not see the end of it. At the beginning of the alley, there was a wooden sign with the word "Speed" written on it. On the left and right walls 1,000 li away from the starting point, there was a crystal ball. Although the 2nd stage also tested speed, strictly speaking, it was a test of willpower. Many who did not finish the race passed. As for the 5th stage, it was all about speed, nothing else. Speed is my strong point. The Speed Wolf King was the first to rush out. Chi. The air was torn apart, and the Speed Wolf King instantly surpassed the crystal ball. Instantly, the crystal ball on the right lit up with a green color. Next, everyone began to sprint. In the end, 48 people passed. It seemed that the speed test was not strict. It made sense. During the battle, there were many people who were slow. As long as their reactions were fast enough, they would be fine. After speed, it was defense. Defense was slightly more difficult than speed. 4 people were eliminated, leaving 44 people. Next should be strength, someone said. As expected, the third stage of the fifth stage was the trial of strength. One only needed to ring the bell on the opposite side to pass. In battle, if one's speed and defense were a bit weaker, they would not necessarily lose. But if one's attack was also weak, it would undoubtedly be dangerous. Usually, attack was the most important. If one's attack was strong, they could break through the opponent's defense. They would not need to hit the opponent countless times and only cause a small wound. Therefore, the number of people eliminated in the trial of strength surpassed the previous 2 stages. A total of 13 people were eliminated. Du Sha was also eliminated. There are only 31 people left. It is really strict. The god's trial field strictness made Yi Chen sigh inwardly. From the first stage to the 5th stage, the trial's content was all-encompassing. Not a single weakness was allowed. If there was even a single weakness, then one would be eliminated. After the trial of strength, there was still the 4th stage. This stage was the trial of reflexes. In a dangerous alley, there were hidden weapons shooting out everywhere. These hidden weapons were extremely fast. If one thought that they could rush through with speed alone, it was impossible. Along the way, they had to constantly dodge the hidden weapons, and sometimes they had to retreat. When the 4th stage ended, there were only 20 people left. I wonder what the 6th stage is? Someone couldn't help but ask. Are you stupid? All the stages have been passed. The 6th stage is naturally a test of absolute strength. The strong are respected. This principle has never changed. That's right. Although the previous stages of the divine trial field have not changed in essence, the form may change. But the final stage, whether it is in essence or form, will not change. As they spoke, the group walked out of the alley. In front of them was a vast grassland. On the grassland there was a circular martial stage. The martial stage did not look very large, only 10 miles in diameter. It was covered by a transparent spherical barrier. Coming to the side of the martial stage, the group found a wooden sign. The wooden sign had the rules written on it. The general meaning of the rules was that when the trial talisman lit up, they had to go up and fight. If they won, they would receive 1 point. If they lost, they would receive no point. The top 10 in terms of points would have the right to enter the paradise of God. It's the ranking competition, Yi Chen said to himself. The ranking competition was the fairest competition. It was normal for martial artists to counteract each other. It would be a pity if they lost the right to enter the paradise of God just because they lost a mat. Buzz. Outside the 4 golden gates of the god's trial field, there were many eliminated trial challengers gathered. Suddenly, a 3-dimensional image appeared between them. The image was of a circular martial stage. They could also see the 20 people beside the martial stage. Is it the last stage? There are only 20 people left. Participating in the divine trial field was the right decision. Although I didn't even pass the 2nd stage, I can see the top geniuses fight. This trip was worth it. Yeah. Only 10 people can pass the divine trial field. The others are just there to serve as foils. But seeing the top geniuses fight is enough. Most people came to the divine trial field to see. More importantly, they could see the top geniuses of the 4 major star fields fight. Mr. Yi. Lan Xianer saw Yi Chen. I can't believe this guy made it to the end. Mr. Firebird's eyes widened. On the blue leaf, he knew that Yi Chen was powerful and that he couldn't compete with him. But he didn't expect Yi Chen to make it this far. This meant that his opponent was at least in the top 20 of the 4 major star field. He was light years ahead of him. Good thing I didn't provoke him. Mr. Firebird slowly exhaled. On the prairie, 2 people's trial talismans lit up. They were the lifeless swordsman Ling Fifan and a young man in gray. The young man in gray was ranked 25th on the Heaven King list. People called him the Soul Breaker Spear, Jiang Hao. Jiang Hao was the same as Yi Chen and the tanned young man. He wasn't in the top 20 of the Heaven King list, but he had made it this far. He was strong enough. Unfortunately, his opponent was the lifeless swordsman Ling Fifan. He was defeated in 3 moves. Chapter 1064. The second pair was Qi Hongyan and the Speed Wolf King. Howl. The Speed Wolf King howled at the sky and turned into a werewolf. His legs were strong and elastic, and his claws were as sharp as razors. He could travel hundreds of thousands of miles in a single leap. The arena looked small, only 10 miles in diameter, but there was another dimension inside. It was probably more than 1,000,000 miles in diameter, and it was a vacuum environment, so the resistance was negligible. Whoosh, whoosh. Strands of platinum hair shot out and entangled the Speed Wolf King. At the same time, Qi Hongyan stepped on the arena and flew into the sky. Heaven and Earth star picking palm. She locked her eyes on the Speed Wolf King and clenched her right hand. The Speed Wolf King spat out a large amount of blood and flesh. He was shocked to find that his heart was broken, and his movements were slowed for a moment. 5 strands of whitish gold hair of unknown length wrapped around his neck and limbs, fixing him in the air with his arms and legs spread wide open. Then, Qi Hongyan slapped the Speed Wolf King 4 times in a row, turning him into a bloody mist. The Speed Wolf King, ranked 14th on the Sky King list, was defeated. Qi Hongyan's 3,000 platinum threads had become more powerful after a few years. The violent Queen Yen Feihua rubbed her chin, as if thinking of a way to deal with her. To deal with the 3,000 platinum threads, you must first defend against her Heaven and Earth heart picking palm. Otherwise, you can only passively take a beating. Of course, this is under the condition that you are evenly matched. The tanned young man smiled shyly. Yen Feihua asked, "Which style of your wave punch are you at?" "The 5th style." The tanned young man said. "You're at the 5th style already? No wonder your master asked you to come out." Yen Feihua nodded. Next up were Violent Dragon Yang Ting and Slasher by Li Huan. Violent Dragon Yang Ting was ranked 2nd on the Sky King list. He was a giant armored dragon, and was definitely a ferocious person. Although Slasher by Li Huan was also a powerful swordsman, there was still a huge gap between them. If Bai Li Huan was replaced by Ling Fifan, the lifeless swordsman, it might be more interesting. I didn't expect Bai Li Huan to meet Yang Ting so soon. I wonder how many moves he can take. Probably around 20 moves. It will be difficult. If he meets an opponent with other techniques, Bai Li Huan might be able to hold on for a while longer. However, Yang Ting is not an ordinary person. In terms of defense and power, if he claims to be number 2, no one would dare to claim to be number 1. In terms of speed, he is at least in the top 5. Bai Li Huan will probably lose in about 10 moves. Bai Li Huan was a top-notch expert ranked 10th on the Heavenly King list. His battle with Yang Ting had not yet begun, but the scene was already quite heated. Everyone was discussing the characteristics of the two. Make your move. On the fighting ring, Yang Ting stood with his hands behind his back and looked at Bai Li Huan, who was in the distance. Clang. Bai Li Huan didn't say anything. He slowly pulled out the snow-white broadsword that was as tall as a human and raised it high above his head. The broadsword momentum that was as majestic as a mountain and as fiery as magma was condensing and brewing. At the same time, he himself had also entered the second stage of the selfless state, the selfless body. His pupils turned dark silver, and the horrifying aura was released for a moment. Mountain-breaking style. Suddenly, Bai Li Huan fiercely slashed out with his blade. The bright blade light filled the sky and the earth. It was tens of thousands of miles long, like a giant divine blade, and it directly slashed towards Yang Ting. "I'll give you 3 slashes." Yang Ting raised his left hand and grasped the sharp part of the bright blade light. See splitting style. After the first slash, Bai Li Huan's second slash followed closely. This slash was continuous and relentless, as if it could split the entire sea. The second slash. Yang Ting stretched out his right hand and grasped the blade light. Roar! Bai Lihuan leaped up. At this moment, the broadsword momentum on his body had condensed to the limit. No one knew what secret method he had used, but the broadsword momentum on his body was clearly strong enough to tear the sky and the earth apart. However, it was restrained within 10 meters of his body. This caused a terrifying circle of broadsword momentum to appear around him. This circle of broadsword momentum was similar to a broadsword realm, but it was more destructive than a broadsword realm. Because the broadsword realm existed forever, the broadsword momentum would be unleashed along with the power of the broadsword. Burning broadsword style. Boom! The snow-white broadsword in Bai Lihuan's hand began to burn. The raging flames ignited the circle of broadsword momentum. Just as the circle of broadsword momentum was about to explode, Bai Lihuan swung out his most powerful slash. This slash burned the sky and broke the sea. This slash severed the soul. This slash tore everything in front of it apart. It would not stop until death. What a powerful slash! Outside the Golden Gate, many of the eliminated trial takers were dumbfounded. Although this saber strike was not aimed at them, no, it was not even in the same dimension as them, the pressure it brought them was not small at all. Many of the weaker ones could not help but take a few steps back, trying to avoid this saber strike. Finally, it's a little interesting. Yang Ting growled. Iron-black dragon scales appeared on his face and chest, and his eyes turned into cold, emotionless steel dragon eyes. Creak! The broadsword light in his left and right hands shattered. Yang Ting leaned forward, clenched his fists, and punched towards the blazing broadsword light that was coming at him. Clang! Like a giant broadsword cutting through a steel star, the ear-piercing sound waves penetrated everywhere. The 18 people outside could not help but bear the brunt of the sound wave. Their protective energy lit up one by one. It was already so terrifying outside, not to mention the inside. Yang Ting's entire body was on fire. The aftershock of the blazing broadsword light was very strong. Unless the whole thing was shattered, even if only a small part of it was left, it would still be blasted out by inertia. The broken broadsword light rubbed against the protective dragon energy on the surface of Yang Ting's body, igniting a raging fire. The temperature of this fire had already far exceeded the temperature of the sun's surface. It was probably tens or even hundreds of times hotter. Even Yang Ting's protective dragon energy could not completely isolate such a high temperature. Waves of flames appeared on the surface of his body. His skin was burning red like iron. Break for me! Yang Ting's fists shook violently, and then suddenly separated. The remaining broadsword light was shattered into millions of pieces, turning into countless sparks that flew everywhere. It was brilliant. Standing in the center of the arena, the flames on Yang Ting's body gradually extinguished. He said word by word, "The burning blade technique is indeed powerful. Next, you will also take a punch from me." Boom! Without storing up much power, Yang Ting directly punched at Bai Lihuan. The black fist energy was highly condensed, and the external momentum was not very strong. However, this was only the external. Bai Lihuan, who had raised his broadsword to block, spat out a mouthful of blood. His entire body was sent flying tens of thousands of miles away. The bones in his arms were about to break, and he could barely hold on to his broadsword. Taking a deep breath, Bai Lihuan used his movement technique and circled around Yang Ting, not giving him a chance to attack directly. Yang Ting was like a violent dragon, punching out again and again. Among the 3 punches, at least one would graze Bai Lihuan. Among the 5 punches, Bai Lihuan had to take one of them head-on. Very soon, Bai Lihuan could not hold on anymore. Be it speed, defense, or power, he was much weaker than Yang Ting. The 11th move, Bai Lihuan was defeated. Violent Dragon Yang Ting is still so strong. The only ones who can compete with Yang Ting in terms of strength are probably the Peerless King Audiobook and the Black Destruction King Zhou Jian. What was strength? It was using absolute power to suppress the opponent. Seriously speaking, apart from the first 3 strikes, this battle was not very exciting. This was because towards the end, Yang Ting had already controlled the entire situation. Next, 2 more battles took place. They were Yan Feihua against Akiji Wang, and Azure Dragon Swordsman Xiao Xiu against Ghost Hand Luo Ming, who was ranked 28th on the Heavenly King list. Among the 20 people, 15 were in the top 20 on the Heavenly King list. The remaining 5 were the dark-skinned youth, Yi Chen, Soulbreaker Spear Jiang Hao, who was ranked 25th, Ghost Hand Luo Ming, who was ranked 28th, and Divine Wind Kick Ouyang Taiying, who was ranked 30th. Akiji Wang was ranked 13th and had fought with Yi Chen in the 4th round. This time, facing Yan Feihua, who had the title of Violent Queen, he lost miserably. Ghost Hand Luo Ming was considered very powerful to be able to fight his way into the top 20. Unfortunately, there was still an unbridgeable gap between geniuses. He and Azure Dragon Swordsman Xiao Xiu were not on the same level at all, so he lost cleanly. It was Yi Chen's turn in the 5th battle. His opponent was Ghost Genius Lu Wenxiu. Ghost Genius Lu Wenxiu was recognized as one of the top 3 geniuses in the 4 major life star areas. Some people said that if he had a little fighting spirit, it would not be a problem for him to be in the top 10. Ghost Genius Lu Wenxiu, I wonder what his ranking will be this time? Yan Feihua, who had just exercised, said with a smile. The God's Test field opens once every 10 years. This time, he should have a little fighting spirit. I think this swordsman is most likely not Lu Wenxiu's opponent, unless Lu Wenxiu goes easy on him. Strange Speed Wolf King did not have much hope for the top 10. Being able to watch the battle live was also a kind of enjoyment for him. Lu Wenxiu will lose. Gu Qingxue said. Lu Wenxiu will lose? He is one of the top 3 geniuses. Although he is frivolous, his talent is there. Plus, this time is different from the past. Strange Speed Wolf King looked at Gu Qingxue in surprise. There were 3 widely recognized geniuses in the 4 major life star areas. Unparalleled King Ajiu, Lifeless Swordsman Ling Fifan, and Ghost Genius Lu Wenxiu. There was a word to describe each of them. Unparalleled Ajiu. Thoroughly tempered Ling Fifan. The talented Lu Wenxiu. Gu Qingxue said, I lost to him. What? Everyone looked at Gu Qingxue. They did not communicate much, so they did not know that Gu Qingxue had lost to Yi Chen. They only thought that they had not fought. At this time, Qi Hongyan also said, This person's strength is beyond my imagination. The only thing I can describe is that he is very strong, absolutely strong. If I were to fight him, my chance of winning would be less than 10%, maybe even less. The power that Yi Chen had displayed was not enough for Qi Hongyan to say that. But for some reason, when facing Yi Chen, Qi Hongyan could not help but feel a chill down her spine. Yi Chen was so calm, as if he would not even blink even if the sky fell down. It was very rare. Gu Qingxue was already very powerful, but when facing Yi Chen, she did not even have the slightest advantage. Even Qi Hongyan said so. Many people looked at each other. He is one of my opponents. After a moment of silence, a voice sounded. Everyone looked in the direction of the voice. It was Lifeless Swordsman Ling Fifan. Chapter 1065. Hearing this, Flawless Swordsman Zhao Wuk slightly frowned. After his battle with Ling Fifan had told him to be careful of a swordsman in blue. Could it be him? Ling Fifan said that, so he must not be an ordinary person. Let's wait and see. Yan Feihua smiled. Right, it's useless to speculate before the battle starts. The Speed Wolf King nodded. They had thought that Lu Wenxiu would definitely win, but because of the words of Gu Qingxue, Qi Hongyan, and Ling Fifan, the battle became complicated. They knew Lu Wenxiu's talent very well, so they didn't think that the 3 of them would lie to them. Outside the Golden Gate, Lan Xiener looked worried. She heard all kinds of discussions, but it was obvious that they were supporting Lu Wenxiu. After all, they didn't know much about Yi Chen. Mr. Yi, you must win. On the arena. Lu Wenxiu's cynical eyes gradually became serious. He was cynical and couldn't bring himself to fight for things he wasn't interested in, but it didn't mean that he had no vision. From the second round, he knew that Yi Chen wasn't an ordinary swordsman. He was as dangerous as the top 5 on the Sky King list. If he didn't go all out, he would lose miserably. I am Lu Wenxiu. Out of respect for Yi Chen, Lu Wenxiu told him his name. Yi Chen. Yi Chen nodded slightly. I know you are very strong, but in this ranking battle, there is something that I insist on. Therefore, I will give it my all and bring out 120% of my strength. Lu Wenxiu said word by word. I hope so. Yi Chen also wanted to know how talented Lu Wenxiu was as one of the 3 geniuses of the 4 major life star areas. Lu Wenxiu had a slim body, with long hair and clothes fluttering in the wind. Whoosh! An extremely terrifying aura burst out from his body, but in the blink of an eye it was restrained. Lu Wenxiu's long hair grew longer, and his pupils turned pale gold. Selfless heavenly eye realm. Ghost genius Lu Wenxiu is indeed powerful. The speed of his selfless realm is too fast. The audience exclaimed. On the other hand, Yi Chen didn't change at all. This Yi Chen is too arrogant. Lu Wenxiu respected him and immediately entered the selfless heaven's eye realm, but he didn't react at all. The eccentric Speed Wolf King didn't know that Yi Chen couldn't enter the Anata state. It thought that Yi Chen was too arrogant and didn't take Lu Wenxiu seriously. Although the others did not say anything, a few of them could not help but frown. Lu Wenxiu, who had entered the selfless heavenly eye realm, immediately noticed that the flaws on Yi Chen's body were pitifully few, and they were constantly disappearing. Without any hesitation, Lu Wenxiu took the initiative to attack Yi Chen. Lu Wenxiu's movement technique was incomparably marvelous. Every time he moved, an afterimage would appear. As he moved for dozens of li, there were hundreds of afterimages, like a soft, long line. Lu Wenxiu, who was at the front, chopped at Yi Chen with a palm blade. The palm blade was illusory and came and went like the wind, giving people the feeling of a gust of wind brushing past their faces. It's here. It's one of Lu Wenxiu's 4 ultimate skills, Wind Shadow Chop. Someone couldn't help but shout. Wind Shadow Chop, there should be something special about it, right? An ultimate skill that could make the spectators applaud was definitely not ordinary. Clang, the demon slaughtering sword was unsheathed. Yi Chen's sword met the attack, and the sword light was like cold lightning. Bang! The palm and sword collided. Yi Chen didn't move at all, but Lu Wenxiu was sent flying. Something's wrong, the strength isn't that strong. Yi Chen frowned. Lu Wenxiu's palm blade might be very sharp and fast to those eliminated elite geniuses, but who didn't have a few tricks up their sleeves? This palm blade, other than being a little fast and having a slightly erratic trajectory, didn't have anything special about it. However, it contained a layer of soft force. The terror of the Wind Shadow Chop has just begun. Zhao Wuk had experienced this move before, so he knew how terrifying it was. Hua! Lu Wenxiu, who was sent flying, turned around like a whirlwind, and once again attacked Yi Chen. So that's how it is. The attack power has increased by quite a bit. Yi Chen once again sent Lu Wenxiu flying. Pung 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 pung. The two exchanged more than 100 moves in an instant. Unknowingly, Lu Wenxiu's phantoms had multiplied by several times. The entire center of the martial stage was filled with his phantoms, and with a rough estimate, there were at least several thousand of them. These phantoms weren't inanimate objects, but were like the wind, sweeping everywhere. If one had to describe them, they could be described as the basic components of the wind, and the several thousand phantoms had converged into a horrifying phantom tornado. The more phantoms there were, the stronger Lu Wenxiu's attack power seemed to be. It seemed to be endless and unceasingly stacking up. Watch out! Wind Shadow Chain Chop! Lu Wenxiu's voice was heard. At the same time, rows of Lu Wenxiu's phantoms attacked Yi Chen like a queue. As soon as the first row finished its attack, the second row of Lu Wenxiu's followed. These phantoms were hard to distinguish, and each of them had a powerful attack power. If one chose to ignore them, then no matter how strong Yi Chen's protective Zhen Yuan was, it would still be broken. More importantly, Lu Wenxiu's real body was hidden in the phantoms, and with a slight carelessness, he would definitely suffer a fatal attack. To be able to use the wind profound and water profound to such a degree, you are indeed worthy of being one of the top 3 geniuses. How could Yi Chen not see that the wind shadow chop was a unique skill that combined movement and attack power? The wind made it faster, and the water made the phantoms more condensed, making them harder to break down. Moreover, it contained layers upon layers of soft energy, which could dissolve most attacks. If one didn't have absolute power, or didn't have a way to deal with it, then they would be crushed to death by the phantoms. Autumn water profound, 1,000 years shatter. Top rank profound martial skills were broad and profound. Although the autumn water sword art contained the perfect metal profound and water profound, it was actually very rough. On the basis of the autumn water sword art, Yi Chen had already developed an even stronger move. As the sword was waved out, the void was like a lake being blown by the wind, creating countless ripples. The moonlight in the lake was shattered into millions of pieces along with the ripples. At that moment, Lu Wenxiu had a dreamy feeling of being in the water. Not good. Lu Wenxiu didn't have time to attack Yi Chen anymore, and hurriedly retreated, escaping from the phantoms. PFFF, 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 PFFF. Thousands of phantoms disappeared. Those broken moonlight were extremely condensed and soft sword qi. The sword qi swam around, and Lu Wenxiu's phantoms couldn't stop it at all. The ripples in the lake and the broken moonlight spread at an extremely fast speed, and Lu Wenxiu was affected by the sword aura of the autumn water sword art. His speed had decreased by a lot, and he had only retreated for 10 miles before he was caught up. Bronze wall, iron wall. Lu Wenxiu's hands drew a half circle in front of him, and a dark gold cover covered him. Clank, clank. The broken moonlight hit on the dark gold cover, creating a continuous metal clashing sound. It's the second of the 4 supreme martial skills, bronze wall, iron wall. The one who spoke was Bai Lihan. Lu Wenxiu's 4 supreme martial skills were all top-rank profound martial skills. The wind shadow chop focused on movement, and the bronze wall iron wall focused on defense, containing the perfect earth profound and metal profound. This supreme martial skill was so powerful that even Bai Lihan's burning blade art couldn't break through it. Another top-rank profound martial skill? A cold glint flickered in Yi Chen's eyes. The demon slaughtering sword was raised high above his head, emitting a blazing green flame. After a brief moment of preparation, Yi Chen slashed down at Lu Wenxiu. Merciless water and fire. Kacha. The indestructible dark gold cover was split in half, and Lu Wenxiu was sent flying back, spurting out a mouthful of blood. On his chest, there was a clear green sword mark that flickered for a split second. The boundless sword force nearly tore him in half through the armor. This sword move's killing power was terrifying to the extreme. What? The crowd was shocked. Lu Wenxiu's bronze wall iron wall was broken in a split second. What kind of sword move was this? It was too powerful. The spectators and the eliminated participants outside the Golden Gate held their breaths in rapt attention. At this moment, Yi Chen's terrifying strength was on full display. Even Lu Wenxiu, who was going all out, wasn't his opponent. This time, Lu Wenxiu is really in danger. Who would have thought that a peak expert would appear in my Black Tortoise Galaxy, and the Vermilion Bird Galaxy would also have one? Yen Feihua lamented. Zhao Wux's eyes narrowed. As a fellow swordsman, other than the unimaginable pressure that Yi Chen brought him, it also gave him endless motivation. Tilting his head, Zhao Wux looked at Ling Fifan and Xiao Xiu. Of these 2 people, one was a blade user, the other a swordsman. Both were opponents that he strived to defeat. Ling Fifan crossed his arms over his chest, his expression unchanged, but his pupils were deep and unfathomable. At Xiao Shiyu's waist were two swords, a long sword and a short sword. The long sword was thin, while the short sword was thick. The way he looked at Yi Chen was filled with fighting spirit. Although it wasn't obvious, Zhao Wuk could feel it. Xiao Shiyu, even you're tempted to fight. On the stage, Yi Chen inwardly shook his head, inwardly shaking his head. Merciless water and fire was one of his ultimate sword moves, and its power was not limited to this. In this attack, he only used 30% of his strength. During the sword forging process, he had already raised his fire profound to perfection. In other words, the merciless water and fire profound, which contained the perfection of water profound and fire profound, were not just a little bit stronger, but several times stronger. Previously, merciless water and fire was already stronger than ordinary top-rank profound martial skills. Now it was several times, or even 10 times stronger than ordinary top-rank profound martial skills. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that he had split the opponent's dark golden cover with one sword. Am I going to lose like this? Lu Wenxiu, who had been sent flying far away, closed his eyes, and a thought flashed through his mind. No! Lu Wenxiu opened his eyes, which were filled with an indescribable fighting spirit. In the past, it was difficult for him to raise his fighting spirit, because he couldn't be obsessed with winning. Others could get stronger as they fought, but he relied on cultivation to strengthen himself. However, it was different this time. This time, he had already made up his mind to successfully pass the God's test field. If he missed this chance, he didn't know when he would get another chance. Lu Wenjie, wait for me in the God's paradise. Roaring in his heart, Lu Wenxiu forcefully stopped his retreat and stood firmly on the stage. His pupils became deeper, and the pale gold color gradually turned into a deep gold color. His hair grew longer, reaching his thighs, and his expression had an unprecedented change. It was a burning fighting spirit and fighting spirit. The real Lu Wenxiu has awakened. The one who spoke was peerless King Ajio. Chapter 1066. Ji Qingyue kept a long distance from the spectators. Others were only a few hundred meters away from each other, but he was about 2 miles away from the nearest one. Looking at Lu Wenxiu on the stage, Ji Qingyue's mouth curled up. He and Lu Wenxiu grew up together, so no one knew him better than he did. It had been almost 10 years since he last saw Lu Wenxiu at this moment. His temperament has changed. In Yi Chen's eyes, Lu Wenxiu used to be a lazy leopard. Even when he became a little more serious, he did not completely abandon this temperament. But now, Lu Wenxiu gave people the feeling that he was a fierce leopard that had not eaten for 3 days and 3 nights. If he did not eat, he would starve to death. Being forced into a desperate situation, his temperament was full of sharpness and ferocity. Laziness and cynicism had completely disappeared from him. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. There were no phantoms. Lu Wenxiu's movement speed had reached an astonishing level. With a flash, he was hundreds of thousands of miles away. Of course, the distance between him and Yi Chen was not hundreds of thousands of miles. Therefore, in the blink of an eye, he made hundreds of attacks. When he missed, he immediately retreated and attacked again. Ding, 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 ding. Yi Chen looked calm. The Demon Slayer sword in his hand was extremely fast. No matter which angle or direction Lu Wenxiu attacked from, he would block it. Lu Wenxiu's speed is so fast, much faster than before. Someone said. Yes, the higher the realm of the selfless heavenly eye, the faster the speed of perception and movement. In the selfless heavenly eye realm, there are at most 3 people who can match or surpass him. However, don't you guys feel that the swordsman named Yi Chen's sword speed is getting faster and faster? Before, I could still see the trajectory. Now, I can't even see the trajectory. It seems like he can reach his destination with one swing of his sword. Yeah, I wonder when such a terrifying swordsman appeared in the Vermilion Bird Star region. I don't think he's a genius from some planet with life. Instead, he came from some remote world with life. Otherwise, with his sword skills, how could he not have any reputation? The human clan and the demon clan were irreconcilable with the demons and other evil clans. It was either you die or I live. The planets with life were the base of the human clan and the demon clan in the universe, and the living worlds were their root. One day, if the demons and other evil clans were strong enough to defeat them, they could hide in the living worlds and come out again after accumulating enough power. In fact, it was not that the human clan and the demon clan had never been defeated in the past, but with the existence of the living worlds, it was almost impossible for them to be completely eliminated. There were dozens of inhabited worlds around the 4 major life star areas. Some were far away and some were close. Lu Wenxiu's body soared high into the air, her right hand grabbing at Yi Chen. Whoosh! As the flames burned, a giant hand of lava thousands of miles wide appeared out of thin air, wrapping around the space where Yi Chen was. It rapidly tightened and contracted. The third of the 4 supreme skills, Fire God's Hand. It was not over yet. As soon as the Fire God's Hand was performed, Lu Wenxiu's left hand suddenly stretched out. Her palm shone with dazzling starlight. The starlight was dark and condensed in her palm. A terrifying gravitational force instantly acted on Yi Chen's body. The fourth of the 4 supreme skills, Star Trapping Hand. The 4 supreme skills were all top-rank profound sense martial arts, each more powerful than the previous one. This was the brilliant ghost genius Lu Wenxiu. 6 complete profound senses are indeed powerful. Surrounded by the lava hand, Yi Chen stood there with the demon's slaughtering sword in his hand. Of Lu Wenxiu's 4 supreme skills, the Wind Shadow Chop contained the complete Wind Profound and Water Profound. The Indestructible Wall contained the complete Metal Profound and Earth Profound. The Fire God's Hand contained the complete Fire Profound and Earth Profound, and the Star Trapping Hand contained the complete Starlight Profound. Altogether, there were 6 complete profounds: wind, water, metal, earth, fire, and starlight. For ordinary geniuses at this age, it was already not bad to comprehend 2 profounds to completion. Those who could comprehend 3 complete profounds would be considered outstanding. As for 6 complete profounds, no one could surpass them. Although Yi Chen was not even 40 years old, which was a little younger than his opponent, he did not dare to say that he could comprehend 6 profounds to completion at his opponent's age. However, he was somewhat confident in comprehending 5 profounds. Having multiple profounds to completion would bring about a huge effect. The combination of 2 would allow one to create many top-rank profound sense martial arts. After all, there were many types of profound sense martial arts. They were divided into defensive martial arts, offensive martial arts, movement martial arts, and so on. Some profounds amplified the attack more, while others amplified the defense more. If one only had 1 or 2 profounds to completion, creating a top-rank profound sense martial art would be limited. However, it did not mean that the more profound sense martial arts one had, the more powerful they would be. In this universe where only the strong were respected, strength was everything. As for what one used to amplify one's strength, no one would care. The demon's slaughtering sword burned fiercely. The dark green flame condensed into a huge heaven sword. Raising the heaven sword up high, Yi Chen slashed at Lu Wenxiu in the sky. As for the lava hand and the majestic gravitational force, they were completely ignored by him because these obstructions would be crushed under his sword. Whoosh! A dark green sword scar illuminated the entire stage. Lu Wenxiu's left arm had disappeared without a trace. At the crucial moment, he had used his exceptional reaction and dodging speed to avoid being hit in a vital spot. However, this sword was simply too fast. Distance was no longer able to restrict it. Lu Wenxiu slid on the ground for several hundred li. His eyes were hidden in the shadow of the flowing sea. The lava hand's encirclement speed is still too slow for him. Although my star-trapping hand created a huge gravitational force and reduced his body's reaction speed, he only needs one sword to break through everything. Sword techniques containing water and fire profounds are indeed powerful. It is not something ordinary top-rank profound sense sword techniques can compare to. However, he most likely didn't notice that a flaw had appeared on his body. The moment he attacked was also the moment when he revealed his flaw. Lu Wenxiu's eyes flashed with an intense fighting spirit. His missing left arm grew back. Hua, a row of phantoms appeared, followed by another row. The densely packed phantoms separated and attacked Yi Chen from all directions, like swallows returning to their nest. Is it the wind shadow chop again? This move seems to be useless against Yi Chen. His opponent's dreamy and gorgeous sword move has a terrifying area of effect. Maybe Lu Wenxiu has some plans? Everyone was puzzled by Lu Wenxiu's actions. Just as everyone expected, the wind shadow chop was indeed useless against Yi Chen. However, Lu Wenxiu's goal had been achieved. A flaw has appeared. 9-star alignment. The instant Yi Chen executed the autumn water profoundness, 1,000 years shattering, Lu Wenxiu locked onto that fleeting flaw. A string of starlight condensed into star beads and shot out in an absolute straight line. The star beads collided with each other, and the star bead at the front had its speed increased to light speed. If it was a light speed attack from the front, there would definitely be many people who could block it. However, if it was a light speed attack aimed at a flaw, there would basically be no one who could block it. What was a flaw? It was the weak spots or blind spots of the person being attacked. For example, an ordinary person would have flaws everywhere. If someone attacked him from the back, he would definitely not be able to react in time and would immediately be knocked down by a punch. Even if he managed to react in time, he wouldn't be able to block it in time and could only try his best to dodge. The back was the greatest flaw of an ordinary person. The person attacking him could completely attack continuously until the other party collapsed. After all, it would take time to turn around. Yi Chen also had flaws. Everyone had flaws. The instant Yi Chen executed his ultimate move would be the instant he revealed his flaw. If he wanted to make the flaw disappear, he would also need time. Of course, flaws were meaningful to those who were fast enough. If an old man who could barely walk attacked someone from the back, the attack would most likely be dodged. He could see this flaw, but he couldn't hit it, so it was meaningless. However, Lu Wenxiu's 9-star alignment had already reached light speed. It would be extremely difficult to block or dodge it. This should be the 5th ultimate move. Yi Chen admitted that he had been careless. Under normal circumstances, he wouldn't be able to block or dodge the opponent's 9-star alignment. He wouldn't have enough time. Buzz. A mighty sword momentum erupted from Yi Chen's body, and the space froze for a moment. At the next moment, Yi Chen split the star bead with his sword. The flaw attack that Lu Wenxiu had carefully prepared was immediately disintegrated. Impossible! Lu Wenxiu's eyes froze. In his judgment, Yi Chen should be able to react, but he definitely wouldn't be able to block or dodge it. However, how did Yi Chen manage to split the star bead with his sword? Lu Wenxiu is going to lose. This swordsman named Yi Chen is way too powerful. Even under such circumstances, he was able to break Lu Wenxiu's killer move. Yes, although I don't quite understand it, I can feel that Lu Wenxiu is very confident in that move. The move that Lu Wenxiu is so confident in must be a killer move that surpasses the previous 4 ultimate move. It wouldn't be too much to describe it as Lu Wenxiu's 5th ultimate move. However, it still failed. That's enough to show how terrifying his opponent is. The onlookers were in a heated discussion. Yan Feihua frowned. Few people on the Heavenly King list could compare to her eyesight. She could clearly see that Lu Wenxiu had indeed locked onto Yi Chen's flaw. However, she didn't understand why her attack was ineffective. She felt that something was missing at that moment. Is it because the space is still? Among the crowd, only King Agio seemed to be deep in thought. It's my turn to attack now. So far, Yi Chen had not walked out of the 10-meter range. He had been blocking or counterattacking on the spot. Everyone was shocked to realize that. Swoosh! Under the shroud of the sword domain, Yi Chen's speed soared to the limit as he flashed towards Lu Wenxiu. In his eyes, there was a diagonal line and 3 dots on Lu Wenxiu's body, which were her flaws. Although the 4 flaws were constantly changing positions according to Lu Wenxiu's movements, they would not disappear. Star Trapping Hand! Lu Wenxiu extended her left hand, and a terrifying gravitational force was about to affect Yi Chen. Swish! Yi Chen's figure was erratic, avoiding the binding of the gravitational force. Pft! When he was less than a mile away from his opponent, Yi Chen quickly slashed out with his sword. Clang! Facing Yi Chen's frontal attack, Lu Wenxiu would not be caught off guard. Everyone had flaws, but it did not mean that one would be able to find them and attack them. Lu Wenxiu would be able to change the position of the flaw at the critical moment. He crossed his arms, and a dark gold light appeared in front of him. It was a simplified version of the iron wall. However, that sword attack of Yi Chen's contained a powerful sword power, and Lu Wenxiu's whole body was blown away. Sword steps. It had been a long time since Yi Chen used sword step. With a step forward, sword light filled the air, and Yi Chen appeared behind Lu Wenxiu. I've lost. Lu Wenxiu's head flew high and blood spurted out. Chapter 1067. Ghost Genius. Lu Wenxiu had lost, which was unexpected, but also reasonable. The strength that Yi Chen had displayed was not something that could be countered with just a little bit of effort. It could only be said that Lu Wenxiu had woken up too late. If he could maintain this fighting spirit, his current strength would not be like this, it could even be several times stronger. Although Lu Wenxiu's defeat made many sigh, everyone's attention quickly shifted away from him. He was not the only big shot here. Almost everyone was the star of the show. The next battle was between the Tanned Youth and the Black Destruction King, Zhou Jian, who was ranked 3rd on the Sky King list. The Tanned Youth came from the Black Tortoise Galaxy, and his name was Xia Shaoshan. Just like Yi Chen, he had appeared out of nowhere, and no one had heard of his name before. This battle was fierce and violent. The Black Destruction King, Zhou Jian, was ranked 2nd only to the Tyrannosaurus dragon Yang Ting on the Sky King list. His speed, defense, and strength had reached an astonishing level, and he had no weaknesses. His control over his strength was also exceptional, and he could already use the 4 stacks at will. Every punch and kick contained terrifying destructive power. Originally, everyone thought that the battle would be over quickly, and that Zhou Jian, the king of black destruction, would be able to finish off Xia Shaoshan easily. However, to everyone's surprise, Xia Shaoshan's madness was not any weaker than Zhou Jian's. No, to a certain extent, he was even crazier and wilder than Zhou Jian. His oscillating fist was simply a killing machine that could destroy everything. No matter what technique you used, I will break it with 1 punch. If 1 punch could not break it, then 2 punches, 3 punches, 100 punches, 1,000 punches. In a head-on clash, Zhou Jian not only could not do anything to Xia Shaoshan, but he also retreated step by step, his face pale. Meteor Rupturing Fist. Zhou Jian roared and attacked with his strongest fist art, Meteor Rupturing Fist. The Meteor Rupturing Fist was a top-rank body-refining martial art that Zhou Jian had created in the past few years. This body-refining martial art had absorbed the essence of other body-refining martial art. More importantly, this body-refining martial art had unexpectedly integrated 2 stacks of power. As everyone knew, multiple stacks of power and attack martial arts were very difficult to integrate. Once multiple stacks of power were integrated, the martial art's own system would be destroyed, and its power would be greatly reduced. It would be better not to integrate it. Zhou Jian had no way to integrate 4 stacks of power, but he had already integrated 2 stacks of power. Although it was not very perfect, and the degree of overlap between two stacks of power was not very high, it was enough. With this punch, Zhou Jian had completely shattered a star with a diameter of tens of thousands of miles, turning it into billions of pieces, and the star itself did not explode. Boom! This punch was like a hot knife through butter, and it directly hit the skinny Xia Shaoshan. Xia Shaoshan, let me see your fifth style, Hadouken. Yan Feihua knew Xia Shaoshan, so she knew his Hadouken very well. Xia Xiaoshan's expression became ferocious, and his killing intent was revealed. It was hard to imagine the current him and the previous him as the same person. The difference was too great. Fifth movement, killing intent fist. Xia Shaoshan also roared, and threw out a punch. Hiss! The spectators sucked in a breath of cold air. Just by looking at this punch, they felt as if their souls were about to be shattered. Yi Chen frowned. This fist art was too dangerous. Once the punch was thrown, all of the user's spirit, chi, and soul would be involuntarily poured into the fist energy, and as the fist energy continued to collapse, it was also mixed with unimaginable killing intent. It could be said that this fist art contained many different attacking systems, but at the same time, a slight mistake would cause great harm, not only to the enemy, but also to the user. This fist art was a true evil fist art. Boom! Like an earthquake, stars fell from the sky, and Xia Shaoshan and Zhou Jian were both blown away. The difference was that Xia Shaoshan quickly landed on the stage, and after a slight shake, a stream of blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth, while Zhou Jian fiercely hit the protective shield of the stage. His body was full of wounds. Xia Shaoshan won. Zhou Jian lost. I can't believe that the Dark Destruction King Zhou Jian lost. This Xia Shaoshan is really scary. The audience was shocked and surprised by this result. Green Lightning King Gu Qingxue against flawless swordsman Zhao Wuk. Gu Qingxue won. Zhao Wuk's sword art did not pose much of a threat to Gu Qingxue, and he paid a huge price for the minor injuries. Seamless illusionist Li Yifeng against Wind Kick O Yangying. Li Yifeng won. O Yangying was undoubtedly pitiful. In the end, he did not even know how he lost, because he fainted, and his mind was trapped in an illusion, unable to extricate himself. Peerless King Ajiu against Death Illusionist Ji Qingyue. Ajiu won. Ajiu was called Peerless King, just like his title, unparalleled in the world. Ji Qingyue's illusions basically had no effect on him. He was an undefeatable person, or else he would not be ranked first on the Sky King list. Soon, the first round was over. The second round began. In this round, Yi Chen's opponent was Soul Slasher Bai Lihuan. Undoubtedly, Bai Lihuan's saber art was domineering and bold. Judging from his temperament, he and Ling Fifan were two completely different types. Ling Fifan was reserved and calm, giving people a feeling that he was unpredictable. His battles had always been cold and decisive, while Bai Lihuan's temperament was scorching. Standing there, he was like a burning volcano that was about to erupt. His saber art had inherited this characteristic. However, his opponent was Yi Chen. Facing Yi Chen, courage alone was not enough. Therefore, Bai Lihuan and Lu Wenxiu were both defeated by Yi Chen, and he was convinced of his defeat. There were 10 battles in this round. The battle between Yi Chen and Bai Lihuan was the 7th. These 7 battles didn't cause too much of a stir, which was within everyone's expectations. However, the 8th battle had a change. Lifeless swordsman Ling Fifan versus Azure Dragon swordsman Xiao Xiu. As one of the top 3 geniuses, Ling Fifan's strength was unfathomable. Apart from Peerless King Ajiu, it was not surprising that he could defeat anyone else. However, Azure Dragon swordsman Xiao Xiu was not easy to deal with. His Azure Dragon sword art was known as the most powerful sword art. In the eyes of the audience, his strength was terrifying. A swordsman and a swordsman. It was a battle between the strong. In the end, it was Ling Fifan who had the last laugh. Just as the rumors said, Ling Fifan would most likely rank in the top 3, or even second. As for the first place, It would depend on whether Ling Fifan was strong enough to challenge peerless King Aujio. After all, Aujio was known as the top genius of the 4 major life star field. In the 3rd round, Yi Chen defeated Zhao Wuk. Facing Zhao Wuk's flawless sword art, Yi Chen's sword art was even more unfathomable. In terms of the ability to see through flaws, Zhao Wuk was far behind. No matter how one looked at it, the two were not on the same level. In the 4th round, Yi Chen vs. Ghost Hand Luo Ming. Luo Ming forfeited. In the 5th round, Yi Chen's opponent was Akiji King. Akiji King forfeited. In the 6th round, Qi Hongyan forfeited. In the 7th round, Monster Speed Wolf King forfeited. In the 8th round, Gu Qingxue forfeited. In the 8th round, Yi Chen won all of them. Apart from the first 3 rounds, Yi Chen's opponents forfeited in the last 5 rounds. They might have already lost to Yi Chen, or they might have known that the gap between them was too big. Anyway, in the eyes of the audience, Yi Chen was already in the top 7. Without enough strength, it was better to save time. In the 9th round, Yi Chen encountered a strong opponent. His opponent was Azure Dragon swordsman Xiao Xiu. Both of them were swordsmen. Whoever won would be the number 1 swordsman in the 4 major vital starfields. Of course, in terms of battle record, Yi Chen was undoubtedly better. So far, Yi Chen had not lost a single battle, while Xiao Xiu had lost 3 times. Once to Ling Fifan, once to Violent Dragon Yang Ting, and once to Peerless King Aujio. However, it could not be said that Xiao Xiu was weak. It could only be said that his opponents were too strong. Lifeless Bladesman Ling Fifan, Violent Dragon Yang Ting, and Peerless King Aujio were the most popular figures this time. All of them had been encountered by Xiao Xiu. If he won, it would be a reversal. If he lost, it did not mean that he was weak. In the 3 battles, Xiao Xiu's sword skills had already convinced the audience. Ding, 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 top swordsman against top swordsman had always been a very dangerous battle. In terms of technique, they had reached a divine level. Any ordinary sword move could be turned into something magical in their hand. Damn, he's really abnormal. He can even take advantage of such a small flaw. It's too exaggerated. What kind of battle is this? Just looking at it makes people's hair stand on end. The 18 people who were watching the battle were fine, but the eliminated people outside the Golden Gate were holding their breaths, deeply afraid to miss any detail. In fact, so far they had not seen the real details, and there were only a few people who could see through it. Dang. A strange sound came from the collision of swords. Xiao Xiu's arm stiffened for a moment. Poochie. In the next moment, Yi Chen's figure flashed past Xiao Xiu's side, and Xiao Xiu's head flew. He's really a scary person. Until now, I wonder how much of his strength he has revealed? Lu Wenxiu shook her head. In the battle between Yi Chen and Xiao Xiu, the move that appeared the most was not the sword move of the fusion of water and fire, but the vibration sword skill. Although Xiao Xiu was strong, after countless collisions with the vibration sword skill, his arm had become numb uncontrollably. Once the arm became numb, the flaw would naturally be revealed. When facing Yi Chen, even the slightest flaw was terrifying. Forget it, I'll just admit defeat when I face him in the next round. Yan Feihua also shook her head. Eyesight and violence were her biggest advantages, but after watching this battle, she felt that her eyesight paled in comparison to her opponent. As for violence, it should be a joke in her opponent's eyes. In the 10th round, Divine Wind Kick Ouyang Taiying forfeited. In the 11th round, Yan Feihua forfeited. 11 consecutive victories. Currently, there are only a few people who can maintain that. The crowd was discussing. Just wait and see. He's luckier. So far, he has not encountered a popular figure. If he does, I'm afraid he will still lose. At present, there were 3 popular figures, namely Peerless King Aujio, Lifeless Swordsman Ling Fifan, and Tyrannosaurus Yang Ting. In addition, Xia Xiaoshan and Infernal Illusionist Li Yifeng were also popular figures. Xia Xiaoshan's Hadouken defeated Zhou Jian, while Li Yifeng's illusions were terrifying. Death illusionist Ji Qingyue was also defeated by him. Chapter 1068. In the 12th round, Yi Chen continued to maintain his winning streak. His opponent was Divine Wind Foot Ouyang Taiying, who chose to forfeit. In the 10th match of the 12th round, Seamless Illusionist Li Yifeng faced off against Azure Dragon Swordsman Xiao Xiu. This battle was full of ups and downs. The situation reversed several times. Sometimes it was Li Yifeng, and sometimes it was Xiao Xiu. There was even a moment when Xiao Xiu almost killed Li Yifeng. How strange! Outside the Golden Gate, everyone was confused. They had no idea what was happening on the martial stage. Of course, this was mainly related to the illusion technique. Only those who were affected by the illusion technique would be able to see the appearance of the illusion technique. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to see anything. Of course, nothing was absolute in this world. Even if they weren't affected by the illusions, they could still see. For example, Yi Chen. Yi Chen's eyes turned silver. This wasn't a sign of entering the selfless realm, but the ability of the eye of the soul had shifted to his eyes. In his line of sight, the martial stage was still the martial stage. However, there were two Li Yifengs on the stage. One was Li Yifeng's real body, and the other was created by the illusions. Obviously, Xiao Xiu was affected by the illusions and couldn't see Li Yifeng's real body. She thought that the Li Yifeng created by the illusions was his real body. The reason why Li Yifeng was called Seamless Illusionist was because his illusions didn't have any gap. It wasn't a big deal if you could see through one illusion. He could seamlessly create one illusion after another, making it so that you didn't have time to break them. You would be tired of dealing with them, and eventually you would fall into the illusion. Xiao Xiu was already very amazing. She had broken through Li Yifeng's illusions 13 times in a row. This was the 14th time. Reversal. A sneer appeared on Li Yifeng's face. He flipped his palm and his palm faced upwards. A strange scene occurred. The Li Yifeng created by the illusions instantly merged into Xiao Xiu's body. In the next moment, Xiao Xiu began to mutilate herself. She thinks of herself as an opponent? Yi Chen didn't know whether Xiao Xiu saw the same thing as him. He only knew that Xiao Xiu was about to lose. Qi. Blood splattered everywhere. Li Yifeng's real body flashed to Xiao Xiu's side and reached out to take her head. Li Yifeng knew that it was impossible for him to defeat Xiao Xiu by relying on illusions alone. To be able to rank in the top 10 of the Heavenly King decree, which one of them didn't have a tenacious will. Illusions could confuse them for a moment, but they couldn't confuse them forever. But for Li Yifeng, a moment was enough. Li Yifeng's illusions are too terrifying. Even someone as powerful as Xiao Xiu was defeated by him. In a one-on-one battle, Li Yifeng might not be the strongest. But in a team battle, I estimate that he is no less useful than peerless King Ajiu. Everyone dreaded Li Yifeng, including the top-ranked individuals. The 13th round began. In this round, Li Yifeng persisted. In his 5th match, he defeated ghost talent Lu Wenxiu. The 6th match was between Yi Chen and Zhou Jian. After 12 rounds of battles, Yi Chen's fame had skyrocketed. Apart from the most popular figures, he was in the limelight for a while. On the other hand, Zhou Jian was one of the older influential figures, and was ranked 3rd on the Heaven King ranking. Even though he had lost to Xia Shaoshan, his reputation had declined, but a starving camel was still bigger than a horse. Zhou Jian was still a formidable opponent, and not everyone had the qualifications to be his opponent. Perhaps it was because he had lost to Xia Shaoshan that Zhou Jian had been suppressing his anger, or perhaps it was because of Yi Chen that he had developed a sense of crisis. Zhou Jian launched a fierce attack at Yi Chen from the very beginning. He used his ultimate skills one after another. Clang, 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 clang. Yi Chen's fighting style was not as violent and crazy as Xia Xiaoshan's. But the audience sucked in a breath of cold air. Yi Chen's sword skills had reached a new realm of sharpness and precision. This was a realm that Azure Dragon swordsman Xiao Xiu and flawless swordsman Zhao Wuk could not reach. On the battling platform, sword chi crisscrossed and fist energies whistled. No matter how fierce Zhou Jian's attacks were, he could not threaten Yi Chen even a little bit. His momentum seemed vast and unstoppable. But, if one were to observe carefully, it would give people a feeling of a cornered beast fighting. It was a strange feeling, because, judging from the situation, Zhou Jian was not at a disadvantage. He was attacking and defending with Yi Chen. Meteor rupturing fist. Zhou Jian faintly felt that something was wrong. He roared and threw out a punch. Hundreds of dazzling fist energies were like meteors, flying towards Yi Chen. Although the power of the meteor rupturing fist was not as strong as the meteor rupturing fist, it only had 20 to 30% of its power. But it was faster and had a lot of energy. Every dazzling fist energy contained 2 layers of energy. Being hit by so many fist energies, unless one's defense had reached the level of violent dragon Yang Ting, no one would be able to take it. Facing so many fist energies, Yi Chen only waved his sword. Crackle! The dazzling fist energies were all destroyed. In the next second, Yi Chen's feet shone with sword light. In a split second, he appeared behind Zhou Jian. Pucci! A third of Zhou Jian's neck had been cut open. Blood gushed out like a fountain. Pretty strong defense. Yi Chen did not expect Zhou Jian's defense to be this strong. That sword attack just now was the third move of the vibrational sword spell, Sky Absolute Sword. It contained the perfect Metal Profound and the great success Earth Profound. With these 2 profounds, it produced vibrating power, which was way more powerful than any normal top-rank profound sword attack. He broke through Zhou Jian's defense so easily and almost cut off his head? Everyone was shocked. Compared to the others, Zhou Jian was even more shocked. He knew his defense the best. Although Xia Xiaoshan had defeated him, if it was a real-life or death battle, Xia Xiaoshan would not be able to gain the upper hand without exchanging tens of thousands of blows. Even with Xia Xiaoshan's extraordinary attack power, he was only slightly injured. In comparison, Yi Chen's sword attack was more threatening. As long as his head was cut off, with Yi Chen's attack speed, he could be killed in an instant. Titan protection. His flesh wriggled, and the wound on Zhou Jian's neck recovered. He hurried to increase the distance between him and Yi Chen. Qi surged from his body, forming an illusionary full body armor, which made his body several times bigger, like a small giant. But it was all in vain. The sword did not manage to cut off Zhou Jian's head. Yi Chen turned around and attacked again. This time, it was merciless water and fire. The green sword light flashed across Zhou Jian's neck, and in the next second, Zhou Jian's head flew high into the air. Yi Chen won. He has already won 13 times in a row. Even Zhou Jian could not stop him. So scary. In the 14th round, Xiao Xiu defeated Lu Wenxiu, Violent Dragon Yang Ting defeated Green Lightning King Gu Qingxue, Peerless King Jiu defeated Zhou Jian, and Lifeless Swordsman Ling Fifan defeated Soul Slasher by Li Huan. In the 7th round, Yi Chen against Seamless Illusionist Li Yifeng. Li Yifeng's illusions had already reached the acme of perfection. Even Azure Dragon Swordsman Xiao Xiu had fallen to his hands. Although Yi Chen had defeated Xiao Xiu, everyone present felt that this battle would be very dangerous. Illusions were different from combat strength. If one was not careful, they would fall into a trap. No matter how monstrous one's strength was, they would still become fish on the chopping block. Therefore, the majority of people believed that Yi Chen was not Li Yifeng's opponent. On the martial stage, Yi Chen and Li Yifeng stood 100 miles apart. Li Yifeng had a smile on his face as he sized up Yi Chen. Yi Chen was also sizing up Li Yifeng. Li Yifeng was known as the #1 illusionist of the younger generation in the 4 major life star field. Naturally, his reputation was not undeserved. A swordsman's will had always been very condensed, and their sword intent could cut through all illusions. However, Azure Dragon Swordsman Xiao Xiu had still fallen to Li Yifeng's hands. This was enough to prove that Li Yifeng's illusions could no longer be judged with common sense. Let's begin. Li Yifeng faintly smiled. Yi Chen said, hasn't it already begun? Frowning, Li Yifeng suspiciously sized up Yi Chen. As for the audience, except for a few people, everyone else was confused. What had begun? What had begun? What did they mean by begun? Peerless King Ajiu said to himself. Interesting. Several hundred meters away, Ling Fifan maintained a grim expression. No one could see anything from his face. Li Yifeng took the initiative to attack. With a wave of his hand, countless black bats swooped towards Yi Chen. These bats had sharp claws and teeth, and their eyes were red. Their small bodies contained an astonishing amount of energy. As for Li Yifeng himself, he was like a phantom, shuttling back and forth among the black bats, waiting for an opportunity to give Yi Chen a fatal blow. Yi Chen stood in the center of the martial stage, not even intending to draw his sword. Hoo hoo hoo! In the next moment, numerous black bats swooped down on Yi Chen's body. Li Yifeng also sent a palm strike towards Yi Chen's head. Just as Yi Chen was about to be hit, everything vanished. Amazing! Li Yifeng clapped his hands. Same to you. Yi Chen's expression didn't change. What happened? As for the audience, they were all scratching their heads in confusion. On the martial stage, Li Yifeng and Yi Chen hadn't moved at all. How come one said he was amazing and the other said the same to him? Yan Feihua sighed. Just now, Li Yifeng should have launched an illusion attack. In order to make the other party fall into an illusion, a medium was needed. The most common medium was the eyes. Of course, Li Yifeng had already reached the point of using everything as a medium. However, to a master that had been tempered countless times, the most common illusions were actually the most effective. For instance, if you used an illusion to create a world, there would definitely be a flaw. This was because the world created by an illusion and the real world would always have a slight difference. It was just that you didn't notice it or missed it. As for ordinary illusions, they basically had no flaws at all. Of course, ordinary illusions were still ordinary illusions in the end. The lethality wasn't too great. In a one-on-one situation, even if someone fell for it, they would quickly wake up. But for complex illusions, if they didn't fall for it, then they would fall for it and be unable to extricate themselves. It was obvious that at some unknown time, Li Yifeng had used an illusion on Yi Chen. As for Yi Chen, he had seen through the illusion and remained indifferent. Li Yifeng wouldn't blindly use illusions because that would be far too fake. Li Yifeng's own combat strength was also extremely terrifying. He was in no way inferior to ghost talent Lu Wenxiu and the others. By relying on his own combat strength and illusions that were hard to distinguish between real and fake, Li Yifeng displayed the essence of an illusionist to the limit. Often, if you thought it was fake, then you would be directly killed. But if you thought it was real, then you would fall into an illusion. Although it seemed like you had to choose between the two, the truth was that you didn't have a choice. Autumn water, profound meaning, thousand autumns shatter. Yi Chen closed his eyes. When he opened them again, a brilliant light shot out in all directions. He slashed out with his sword and the void rippled like a lake. Ripples spread out, spreading onto Li Yifeng's body. Hua! Blood splashed out. Li Yifeng had been defeated. Yi Chen had won 14 straight victories. Chapter 1069. To deal with Li Yifeng, Yi Chen did not need to use his soul eyes. His opponent's illusions seemed very realistic, but with Yi Chen's eyesight, he could still see the flaws. If he could see the flaws, then it was naturally an illusion. Thus, it would not be easy for his soul to create illusions. It could be said that defeating Li Yifeng was several times easier than defeating Xiao Xiu. Li Yifeng's pure battle power was far inferior to Xiao Xiu's. Li Yifeng was easily defeated by Yi Chen. This naturally surprised the audience. No matter how stupid they were, they knew that Yi Chen did not fear illusions. In other words, seamless illusionist Li Yifeng's illusions were not qualified to be a problem for Yi Chen. His swordsmanship is extraordinary, and he doesn't fear Li Yifeng's illusions. It seems that the only way to defeat him is to fight him head-on. Yes. Although martial artists have a natural counter to each other, it is rare for a swordsman to be countered, let alone a swordsman at this level. As the audience discussed, the 8th match began. Tyrannosaurus Yang Ting against Black Destruction King Zhou Jian. Tyrannosaurus Yang Ting's true form was that of an armored dragon. His defense and strength were astonishing. At the same level, an armored dragon could easily fight dozens of enemies. Ordinary people could not even break through his defense, let alone contend with him. Therefore, in order to contend with a dragon at the same level, one's attack power must be high enough. If one's attack power was not high enough, all other methods would be useless. So far, Tyrannosaurus Yang Ting had not been defeated. As for Black Destruction King Zhou Jian, he had lost twice. Once to Xia Shaoshan and once to Yi Chen. His momentum was much weaker than usual, but Yi Chen knew that Zhou Jian was actually very strong. If Yi Chen had only used 30% of his strength against Lu Wenxiu, then Yi Chen had used 40% to 40% of his strength against Azure Dragon Swordsman Xiao Xiu. And now, against Zhou Jian, Yi Chen had used 60% of his strength. Do not underestimate this 60% strength. Compared to when he left Elysium, Yi Chen's strength had more than doubled. Now, he could completely contend with a 6th-layer Life and Death Realm Demon King. In the Life and Death Realm, it would be easier to battle against those with higher realms in the early stages. But, after reaching the 4th realm, it would be much more difficult. Most of the 20 people present were at the 4th realm, and only a few of them were at the 5th realm. No one was in a hurry to make a breakthrough, as they wanted to stabilize their foundation as much as possible. Only then would they be able to reach the higher realms. Not to mention the others, even Yi Chen himself had more than 70% chance of reaching the 4th realm if he wanted to. But, he was not in a hurry, as he knew that a little impatience would ruin the big plan. Confronting a 6th-layer Life and Death Realm Demon King with peak 3rd-layer Life and Death Realm was indeed frightening. Although there were 5th-layer Life and Death Realm experts present, the ones who could do this could be counted on one's fingers. Of course, among the 20, the truly powerful ones were the ones at the 4th layer, such as Peerless King Jiu, Lifeless Blade Artist Ling Fifan, Xia Shaoshan, and Tyrannical Dragon Yang Ting. They were all at the 4th layer, but their strength was frighteningly powerful. The battle began. Qi energies crisscrossed on the stage, and fist energies were extremely fierce. Yang Ting and Zhou Jian were both body-refining monarchs. However, in comparison, Zhou Jian was at a disadvantage. Although Zhou Jian's qi power was not ordinary qi power, it was the Vajra qi power cultivated through body-refining cultivation technique. However, compared to Yang Ting's dragon power, there was still a big gap. Dragon power was ferocious and unstoppable. It was the king of qi power. Within the same realm, it could be said that there was no qi power that could compete with it. Under the suppression of the dragon power, Zhou Jian's diamond qi power was the first to fall into a disadvantageous position. Weeping Blood Diamond, Meteor Exploding Fist. Zhou Jian's qi power suddenly turned blood red, and his aura surged. This was a qi power secret art that could greatly increase the explosive power and destructive power of qi power. However, it was a huge burden on the body. Unless it was a crucial moment, Zhou Jian would not use this secret art. When he was fighting against Yi Chen, Zhou Jian did not use this secret art. It was not that he was enduring, but because he was too careless, he did not have time to think, and his head was chopped off by Yi Chen. Now, facing Yang Ting, he finally burst out with his true strength. Boom, 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 hundreds of blood-red fist energies bombarded Yang Ting. It was incomparably dazzling. Amazing, looks like I also have to use my true strength. Yang Ting's muscles squirmed, transforming into a dragon man with a dragon head and a human body. His body was covered with black dragon armor, and his dragon eyes were cold and emotionless. Roar! With a loud roar, Yang Ting punched out, and a dragon-shaped chi power violently surged out. Giant Dragon Fist. Fourth Order Sacred Dragon Fist. Sacred Dragon Fist. Yi Chen's eyes narrowed. Su Jing had also used this fist art before. Dazzling light burst out, and the entire martial stage was filled with light. In the next second, a human figure was sent flying. It was Zhou Jian. Compared to Yang Ting, he was still much weaker. After all, one was a human and the other was a giant dragon. However, Zhou Jian did not admit defeat just like that. He had lost against Xia Shaoshan, Yi Chen, and now, he lost against Yang Ting again. Zhou Jian had achieved a breakthrough. His bones were cracking, and his aura was like a broken dam. Once again, a layer of silver light appeared on the surface of his skin. The second stage of the selfless state, the higher level of the selfless body. There were two paths to the second stage of the selfless state. One was the selfless heavenly eyes. After entering the selfless heavenly eyes, one's pupils would turn golden, and according to the depth of the golden color, one could determine the level of the warrior. The other was the selfless body, which was different from the selfless heavenly eyes. After entering the selfless body, one's skin and flesh would emit a silver light. At the beginning, this silver light was not obvious, and it was hidden inside the body. But at the higher level, the silver light could no longer be hidden, and would appear on the surface of the skin, like a silver Iron Man. Meteor Exploding Fist. With a loud roar, Zhou Jian forcefully stopped his body from flying backward, and threw a punch towards Yang Ting. Yang Ting did not expect Zhou Jian to have a breakthrough in the middle of a battle, and was caught off guard. But after all, he was not an ordinary person. After taking a deep breath, his arms were like a dragon coming out of the sea, facing Zhou Jian's meteor exploding fist head-on. Two smaller dragon-shaped chi, one on the left and one on the right, violently shot out. This time, Yang Ting was pushed back. Both of his feet rubbed against the surface of the stage, and he slid back hundreds of miles. The friction even created a series of burning sparks. Feeling a little stuffy in his chest, Yang Ting raised his head and looked forward. However, a fist was enlarging in his pupils, attacking at high speed. It was the meteor exploding fist again. Boom, boom, boom. Again and again, Yang Ting was pushed back again and again, as if he could not block Zhou Jian's attacks. Good, you are indeed the Dark Destruction King, Zhou Jian. Everyone has underestimated you. Yang Ting, who had been blown away by Zhou Jian's punch, was bleeding from the corner of his mouth. He laughed out loud, but his arms that were covered with a layer of black dragon armor had evolved again, turning into dragon arms and dragon claws, real dragon claws. Seeing that Zhou Jian's fist was about to land on his head, he reached out his right hand and instantly grabbed Zhou Jian's wrist. What? Zhou Jian's pupils enlarged. Before, his opponent's attack speed was about the same as his, just a little stronger. But now, his attack speed had increased by a lot, and he had grabbed his wrist in an instant. Die! Yang Ting grinned. His left hand that had turned into a dragon claw tightened, and exploded Zhou Jian's head. He is indeed the Tyrannosaurus Yang Ting. After showing his true strength, he defeated Zhou Jian in an instant. Zhou Jian is not simple either, to be able to break through in the middle of a battle. Come to think of it, his current strength should not be any weaker than Xia Shaoshan and Yi Chen. Both Yang Ting's strength and Zhou Jian's self-breakthrough had shocked the crowd. In the 9th battle, Xia Shaoshan defeated the Green Lightning King, Gu Qingxue. In the 10th battle, the lifeless blade artist, Ling Fifan defeated Yan Feihua. Soon, the 14th round ended and the 15th round began. In the first battle of this round, there was already a popular battle. Xia Shaoshan versus Yi Chen. Xia Shaoshan had the heart of a newborn, without any impurities. He was like a boy next door, a mountain boy. However, once he used Hadouken, his aura would undergo a huge change. And when he used the fifth style of Hadouken, Killing Intent Hadouken, his aura would become even more terrifying. It was as if the heart of a newborn had actually increased the power of the demonic fist. This time, Yi Chen is going to lose. The eccentric Speed Wolf King shook his head. From Yan Feihua, he already knew how terrifying Xia Shaoshan was. This was a monster that could not be judged by common sense. No matter how powerful Yi Chen's sword art was, facing a monster, it would be useless. It shouldn't be so simple. Of course, I am also confident in Xia Shaoshan. Yan Feihua frowned and said, on the battling platform. My Hadouken has 5 styles, let's start from the third. 5 styles of Hadouken, each style was more powerful than the previous. The 5th style, Killing Intent Hadouken, had reached an extreme level, and the 3rd style could not be underestimated either. While speaking, Xia Shaoshan jumped into the air, both of his fists punched out continuously. Hundreds, no, thousands of high-pressure light balls shot out from Xia Shaoshan's fists, covering the sky and covering the earth. From the number, it was several times more than Zhou Jian's meteor-rupturing fist. Yi Chen did not look down on his opponent. He instantly pulled out the demon slaughtering sword, and slashed out horizontally and vertically. Crackle! The huge cross-shaped sword light shattered the thousands of high-pressure light balls. The 4th style. Xia Shaoshan naturally did not think that the 3rd style of Hadouken could do anything to his opponent. It was just a test. His body suddenly rushed forward, and Xia Shaoshan threw out the 4th style of Hadouken. As soon as the 4th style of Hadouken was performed, the high-pressure light balls were as big as mountains, like a huge sun. With Xia Shaoshan's high-speed dive, the light balls quickly shrunk, and finally shrunk to the size of a longan, concentrated on Xia Shaoshan's fist. I want to see your 5th style of Hadouken. Yi Chen shook his head. His right hand held the demon slaughtering sword, and suddenly threw it out. Swish! Swish! The demon slaughtering sword instantly turned into 100 sword shadows, and Xia Shaoshan was blown away. The 4th style of Hadouken was broken by itself. Defensive Sword Art, 100 Swords Attack. Chapter 1070. The cultivation of the defensive sword art was getting harder and harder as it progressed, and correspondingly, the increase in power was also incomparable. The Lunine return to 1 sword art combined the power of 81 sword phantoms together, giving it a piercing power that could pierce through anything. Each of the 100 sword phantoms had 30% of the power of the Lunine return to 1 sword art, and the 100 sword phantoms had 30 times the power of the Lunine return to 1 sword art. Although it would not be as destructive as the Lunine return to 1 sword art, it was still not something to be underestimated. Most importantly, the 100 sword phantoms were almost unavoidable, and their speed was close to the speed of light. After sending Xia Shaoshan flying with 1 attack, Yi Chen said that he wanted to see his opponent's 5th movement, Oscillating Fist. Yi Chen could tell that when Xia Shaoshan was fighting with Zhou Jian, he had not fully performed the 5th movement, and had only accumulated a bit of power before throwing it out. Xia Shaoshan was sent flying. The Speed Freak Wolf King was shocked. After flying for a few thousand miles, Xia Shaoshan finally stopped and stood in the air. His body was covered with sword scars, and with a rough look, there were exactly 100 of them. Xia Shaoshan released his killing intent, trying to get rid of the sword intent on the scars. His killing intent, which was also known as the slaughter intent, had been trained to the peak of the 6th rank, which was equivalent to the peak of the 7th rank. However, what made him frown was that the sword intent on the scars was extremely hard to get rid of. Destruction Sword Intent. Xia Shaoshan let out a sigh. His master had told him that the destruction intent and immortal intent were above the slaughter intent, and the destruction intent was the bane of the slaughter intent. Therefore, when he met someone with these two intents, he had to be careful. After a few breaths, the sword intent was finally cleared, and the wound was instantly healed. Raising his head, Xia Xiaoshan looked at Yi Chen and said, "Great, you will be the first person to truly witness the killing intent Hadouken." The first form was the foundation of Hadouken, and there was nothing much to say about it. The second form was called Destruction Hadouken, and the third form was called Meteor Hadouken, which was similar to Zhou Jian's Meteor Rupturing Fist. The fourth form was called Annihilation Hadouken, which had the power to annihilate a star. The fifth form was called Killing Intent Hadouken, which contained the realm of selflessness. Other than selflessness, it also contained selflessness. The killing intent penetrated through everything, and was extremely dangerous. During the battle with Zhou Jian, Xia Xiaoshan had only used a little bit of his killing intent Hadouken. His opponent was not qualified enough for him to use his full strength. Moreover, his killing intent Hadouken had not reached the advanced level, so he should not use it too much. Make your move. With the demon slaughtering sword in his hand, Yi Chen slashed at his opponent with the Heaven Absolute Sword. Huchi! The blurry sword light traveled through thousands of miles, creating a sword screen at Xia Xiaoshan's location. At the critical moment, Xia Xiaoshan managed to dodge it. Killing Intent Hadouken. Activating his body art, Xia Xiaoshan rushed towards Yi Chen. Thousands of miles were covered in less than a second. During this process, Xia Xiaoshan's face turned ferocious. The muscles on his body started to wriggle. From a skinny teenager, he had turned into a strong and powerful young man. His exaggerated muscles were filled with violence and killing intent, and a layer of faint red qi lingered around him. Huh! Yi Chen felt as if his soul had been locked on by a killing intent. This killing intent was illusory, yet so real. Yi Chen tried to use his destruction sword intent to extinguish this killing intent, but he discovered that the killing intent was endless and endless. Unless his destruction sword intent could reach the 7th step from peak 6th step and instantly extinguish all the killing intent, it would be of no use. What a great killing intent Hadouken! Taking a deep breath, Yi Chen raised the demon slaughtering sword high up. The raging green flame started to burn, making the sword look like a huge fire sword. Whoosh! With a sharp look in his eyes, Yi Chen threw out another sword attack. This time, he had used the merciless water and fire. However, he did not use all of his power, only about 80%. An earth-shattering explosion resounded as the stage shook. Amidst the dazzling explosion, the jade-green sword screen was extremely eye-catching. Puking out a mouthful of blood, Xia Xiaoshan was once again blown away. His killing intent Hadouken had not reached completion yet, so how could he compete with Yi Chen's merciless water and fire? If he was a monster, then Yi Chen would be a genius among monsters, without any weaknesses. This fist attack is very powerful. Unfortunately, it has not reached completion yet. Wait until it reaches completion, then we can fight again. After sending Xia Xiaoshan flying with one sword attack, Yi Chen's second sword attack followed closely, shattering Xia Xiaoshan's body. Xia Xiaoshan lost. Yi Chen had won 15 battles in a row. Invincible! A total of 19 battles, and there are still 4 left. In these 4 battles, soul-breaking spear Jiang Hao is definitely not his opponent. Only Peerless King Jiu, Lifeless Blade Artist Ling Fifan, and Tyrannosaurus Yang Ting are left. Even if he loses all 3 battles, he will still be ranked 4th. And he seems to only be at peak 3rd sky of life and death realm. Most of the people present were at the 4th sky of life and death realm, with a few at the 5th and 3rd sky. Only Yi Chen was at the 3rd sky. Don't look down on the gap of 1 sky. In other words, once Yi Chen entered the 4th sky of life and death realm, his battle power would increase by several fold. What kind of concept was several folds? He would probably be able to kill most people with 1 finger. Next, Xiao Xiu defeated Lu Wenxiu, and Zhou Jian defeated Li Yifeng with his astonishing defense. In the 8th battle, Tyrannosaurus Yang Ting faced Green Thunder King Gu Qingxue. Gu Qingxue pushed her advantages to the extreme. Within the electric field domain, her speed was close to the speed of light, and her lightning burst repeatedly blasted into the Tyrannosaurus Yang Ting. The powerful hidden aqua lightning left charred marks on his body. Unfortunately, Yang Ting's defense was even higher than Zhou Jian's. No matter how Gu Qingxue attacked, she couldn't injure Yang Ting too much. As if feeling ashamed, Yang Ting displayed his might. A dragon roar resounded, and a frightening dragon might spread out in all directions. Within the range of the dragon might, Gu Qingxue's speed suddenly dropped. Although the dragon might couldn't weaken the electric field, it could suppress her Zhen Yuan and body. At this moment, the electric field was Gu Qingxue's weakness. If she had another powerful field, she could use it to contend against Yang Ting's dragon might, which was equivalent to Yang Ting's field. With her speed greatly reduced, Gu Qingxue could only hold on for a short while before losing miserably to Yang Ting. Although the 15 battles had yet to end, the rankings were already clear. If there were no surprises, the top 5 would definitely be Peerless King Jiu, Yang Ting, Lifeless Blade Artist Ling Fifan, Xia Shaoshan, and Yi Chen. Up until now, they had been the strongest, while the others were much weaker. The 6th to 10th places would probably be Zhou Jian, Gu Qingxue, Xiao Xiu, Li Yifeng, Yan Feihua, and Lu Wenxiu. Unknowingly, the 15th round had ended. The 3rd battle of the 16th round, Ling Fifan against Xia Shaoshan. The result of this battle would further determine the top 5 rankings. If Xia Shaoshan lost to Ling Fifan, then he would at most be ranked 4th, because Peerless King Jiu was definitely more powerful than him. Adding Yi Chen and Ling Fifan who had defeated him, there were already 3 of them. If he could beat Ling Fifan, then he would have a chance to be ranked 3rd, while Ling Fifan would at most be ranked 4th. After all, if he couldn't even beat Xia Shaoshan, then he definitely wouldn't be able to beat Yi Chen. Boom 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 boom. The battle had reached its climax since the beginning of the battle. Blade chi and fist power clashed continuously. Meteor Hadouken. Xia Shaoshan performed the 3rd style of Hadouken, trying to disrupt Ling Fifan's rhythm. Shura Chop. Ling Fifan's expression didn't change at all. He raised his long blade high above his head and slashed down. This blade attack was indestructible, as huge as a mountain. The horrifying blade light gave people the illusion that it could split the sky and the earth. Puff puff. Xia Xiaoshan's Meteor Hadouken was instantly broken. So powerful. With a serious look in his eyes, Ling Fifan gave Xia Shaoshan the feeling of extreme danger. Different from Yi Chen's aura was sharp, and one had to be extremely careful in front of him. Therefore, Xia Shaoshan had a feeling that he couldn't let go of his hands and feet. Only the killing intent Hadouken could make him use all of his strength. However, Ling Fifan's aura was one that had been tempered 1,000 times. Each of his moves was simple and simple. Normal killing intent would not be able to shake his mind. Looks like I'll have to use the killing intent Hadouken directly. His muscles wiggled, and Xia Shaoshan turned into a muscular young man. Every inch of his flesh, every strand of hair, even his fluttering clothes, contained an extremely horrifying killing intent. As he threw out a punch, all of the killing intent was blasted out along with the fist power. At this moment, he had entered the Anatas state, which was even more mysterious and dangerous than the normal Anatas state. Crack! A crack appeared on the platform under his feet, but soon the crack closed up. Ling Fifan's arms also expanded, and streams of red light flowed into the long blade through his arms. The long blade suddenly enlarged, from 1 meter long to 100 meters long. However, the handle did not become thicker or longer. Holding the huge blade in his hand, Ling Fifan took a step forward and slashed out. No one could describe how horrifying and glorious this slash was. This slash was like a shooting star piercing through the silent sky, like the endless light from the exploding stars, like the reverse flow of the galaxy, shooting up into the sky. Under this slash, Xia Xiaoshan's killing intent seemed to be pushed back. Crack! A huge slash mark appeared above the battling platform, and Xia Xiaoshan's entire body exploded. Lifeless Azura slash. Ling Fifen's ultimate killing move. What? Killing Xia Xiaoshan with one slash? Yi Chen only used 2 slashes? Lifeless Azura slash, indeed lifeless. At this moment, the crowd finally saw Ling Fifen's real power. Even someone as strong as Xia Xiaoshan was killed in one slash. Under this slash, there was no way to dodge, because this slash had pulled back all of the qi, and the powerful blade aura could lock on a person's life. Thousands of battles. I'm afraid he has been through 10 times more battles than me. From this slash, Yi Chen saw countless information. He saw countless Ling Fifen waving his blade, from the weakest to the strongest. Ling Fifen had been through countless battles in his life. Under normal circumstances, an elite genius would definitely experience a lot of battles, but seriously speaking, normal battles were not considered real battles. Only those battles where the gap between the two sides was not that big could be considered a real battle. Therefore, most of the people here had been through hundreds of battles, but Ling Fifen had probably been through thousands of battles. Chapter 1071. After all, Xia Xiaoshan has not experienced many battles. He can't compare with these people who have been through many hardship. Yan Feihua sighed. Xia Xiaoshan had been like a hot knife through butter, winning every battle. Even Zhou Jian could not stop his progress. However, when he encountered Yi Chen and Ling Fifen, he was still far behind. Whether it was technique, battle power, or experience, he was no match for them. Next was the 4th and 5th battle. The 6th battle was between Peerless King Audiobook and Azure Dragon Swordsman Xiao Xiu. Swish, swish, swish. Dragon-shaped sword lights flew out. After 15 battles, Xiao Xiu's Azure Dragon sword technique had obviously improved. The sword energy was vigorous and continuous, firm and soft. Audiobook had a smile on his face. He did not make any moves, but his figure flickered. Every time he flickered, he could dodge a dragon-shaped sword light with ease. Galaxy Palm. After dodging the 7th dragon-shaped sword light, Audiobook suddenly slapped at Xiao Xiu. Rumble. The palm energy was like a blue sea of stars, hitting Xiao Xiu's body in an instant. Seeing that his protective Zhen Yuan was about to break, Xiao Xiu let out a long roar. Thousands of sword lights burst out of his body, blocking the surging galaxy palm energy. Sword Dao Secret Technique. Million Sword Sky Crusade. This secret technique was a bit similar to Firebird Star Prince Songyue's ominous blade qi. The difference was that Songyue's ominous blade qi needed to absorb a large amount of ominous qi, then use a secret technique to refine the blade qi, and finally combine it with one's own blade Dao will. Only after thousands of tempering could it succeed. On the other hand, Xiao Xiu's Million Sword Sky Crusade did not need to rely on external objects. He only needed to breed a sword seed in his dantian with his own sword Dao Jinyuan. Of course, this process was very difficult, not much easier than the ominous blade qi. Once the sword seed was successfully bred, it could be stimulated, causing countless sword qi to burst out along with Zhen Yuan. It could be used for both defense and counterattack. The only weakness was that every time the sword seed burst out, it would weaken. It would take a long time for it to recover or even reach the next level. In the previous battles, Xiao Xiu had already used the Million Sword Sky Crusade once, which was against Yi Chen. This time, he used it again. Not bad. With a smile on his face, Audiobook also slapped out with his left hand. Suddenly, the blue sea of stars became several times denser and more violent. The sword light that erupted from Xiao Xiu's body couldn't withstand it at all and was quickly pushed back. Pop! In the next moment, countless sword lights exploded, and Xiao Xiu's entire body exploded. Xiao Xiu couldn't even withstand a single blow from Audiobook. Everyone was amazed by peerless King Agio's strength. Previously, the lifeless swordsman had used the lifeless Azura chop to defeat Xia Shaoshan, but that was still an extremely powerful killing move. Agio's Galaxy Godly Palm was just an ordinary killing move. It was said that he was not only proficient in palm arts, but also in fist arts, finger arts, and leg arts. As for what peerless King Agio's true ultimate move was, no one knew, because no one had ever been able to force him to use it. In his hands, an ordinary ultimate move was incomparably terrifying. As the battle between Agio and Xiao Xiu ended, the seventh battle began. The two sides of this battle were Li Yifeng and Yan Feihua. Li Yifeng's illusions had undoubtedly reached the point of perfection. The only ones who could see through his illusions were peerless King Agio, lifeless swordsman Ling Fifan, and Yi Chen. As for violent dragon Yang Ting and black destruction King Zhou Jian, they relied on their powerful defenses to defeat their opponent. After all, illusions were very difficult to defeat experts of this level. What Li Yifeng could do was to use illusions to confuse his opponents and then personally attack. The others were fine, but Yang Ting and Zhou Jian's defenses were too strong. Li Yifeng couldn't defeat them in an instant, and in the end, he was defeated by them. Gu Qingxue and Xia Shaoshan had both defeated Li Yifeng. Gu Qingxue's electric current blast was able to directly target Li Yifeng's life magnetic field and wasn't affected by illusions. It could be said that she was Li Yifeng's nemesis. As for Xia Shaoshan's killing intent oscillating fist, it was able to lock onto the soul and was also Li Yifeng's nemesis. Yan Feihua and Li Yifeng's battle proceeded very quickly. Unexpectedly, Yan Feihua won. It turned out that Yan Feihua had cultivated a rare soul arcane technique. This soul arcane technique didn't have any auxiliary effects. It couldn't be used for soul attacks, nor could it be used for soul defense. However, it could reflect the vast majority of negative effects, including illusions. With this soul arcane technique, Yan Feihua defeated Li Yifeng. Now, she and Lu Wenxiu were equal in points, both ranked 10th. Before this, Lu Wenxiu had defeated Yan Feihua, but she had lost to Li Yifeng. Now that Yan Feihua had defeated Li Yifeng, there was no doubt that they were even. The eighth match, the peak battle once again arrived. Yi Chen against violent dragon Yang Ting. After experiencing 15 rounds of battles, no one dared to underestimate Yi Chen anymore. He had used his own strength to prove himself. Li Yifeng, Xiao Xiu, Zhou Jian, and Xia Shaoshan, all of these famous characters had been defeated by his hands one after another. Not to mention anything else, just in terms of swordsmanship, he was already the number one in the younger generation of the four major life star field. No one could compare to him. As for how far he could go, that was something no one could guess. Violent dragon Yang Ting didn't need to be mentioned. His defense and strength were enough to make one's hair stand on end. He was a true iron-armored dragon. Haha, finally someone worth watching. That's good too. Let's warm up before the final battle. Yang Ting still attached some importance to Yi Chen. If he was careless, he would end up in a sorry state. Of course, it was just a sorry state. He didn't think that Yi Chen could defeat him. In his eyes, his true opponents were Ling Fifan and Agio. Even someone as strong as Yi Chen could only warm him up. He wouldn't pose too much of a threat to him. Yang Ting seems to have a lot of confidence in himself. The battle strength Yi Chen displayed is comparable to his. Could it be that he has the confidence to defeat Yi Chen? That's hard to say. If Yang Ting isn't lying, then he should be holding back a lot of his strength. If Yang Ting can hold back his strength, then maybe Yi Chen can as well. That's not very likely. Yang Ting is after all an old famous character. His strength is obvious to all. Yi Chen is only at the peak of third sky of life and death realm. Reaching this stage is probably his limit. How could he still hold back? Even if he did, it would be very limited. The majority of people were still supporting Yang Ting. As for the sudden appearance of Yi Chen, they were skeptical. On the battling platform, the muscles on Yang Ting's body squirmed as he transformed into a dragon man covered in black dragon armor. Both of his hands turned into dragon claws. His fingernails were as sharp as blades, flickering with a cold light. They were not inferior to any divine weapon. On his buttocks, a long black shadow was swaying back and forth. On a closer look, it was a calf-thick tail. The tip of the tail was like a spear tip, triangular in shape. As the tail swayed back and forth, countless traces appeared in the void. Even a tail has appeared. Seems like Yang Ting has decided to fight seriously. Many people thought to themselves. Chapter 1072. Without any nonsense, Yang Ting, who had completed his transformation, suddenly disappeared. When he reappeared, he was already in front of Yi Chen. Clenching his dragon claws, Yang Ting punched out towards Yi Chen's head. An intense astral wind blasted out in a straight line, incomparably tyrannical. Dang! Sparks flew in all directions as a crimson longsword blocked Yang Ting's fist. The shock wave exploded from the point of contact between the fist and the longsword, spreading out with a loud rumble. Hee hee! Yang Ting grinned. The tail behind him was like a spear, fiercely piercing towards Yi Chen's chest. The tail, which was originally only 2 meters long, was now stretched to more than 3 meters long. Its thickness had also increased from the thickness of a calf to that of an arm, giving off a feeling of incomparable sharpness, as if it could pierce through anything. Not good! Some people exclaimed. Yi Chen's longsword had already been used to block Yang Ting's fist, and he couldn't free his hand to deal with that tail. If he forcefully used his left hand to block, it would only pierce through his palm. After all, in a situation where he didn't have a weapon, even a body refinement king wouldn't be able to block Yang Ting's tail, which was comparable to a divine weapon. But very quickly, everyone realized that they were wrong. They couldn't block this tail, but it didn't mean that Yi Chen couldn't. His left hand flashed and grabbed the arm-thick dragon tail by a hair's breadth. The speed and strength of the dragon tail was extraordinary, and Yi Chen's palm was almost torn. Fortunately, Yi Chen had already used the fourth drive. The fourth drive instantly acted on the dragon tail, eliminating the force on it. This caused the dragon tail to tremble a little before softening. What? Yang Ting's pupils shrank. He didn't expect that Yi Chen would actually be able to catch his tail in such a short time. One had to know that when he punched out, the tail was already ready to attack, and the interval between each punch was less than 1,000th of a blink of an eye. For ordinary people, not to mention catching the tail, they wouldn't even have the time to react. Crack, crack, crack. His bones cracked, and Yi Chen's left arm swelled up slightly. His muscles were filled with explosive power. In the next moment, Yi Chen exerted force in his left arm and fiercely swung to the left. Yang Ting felt that his body was not under his control at all. His entire body was pulled to the left, and his tail was stretched taut. This was not the end. Yi Chen was like swinging a meteor hammer, pulling Yang Ting's tail. In an instant, he swung Yang Ting's tail dozens of times, and his speed was getting faster and faster. In the end, it was like a phantom, and it was impossible to tell how many times he had swung it. With a strong gust of wind, Yi Chen dove down. When he was less than 100 meters away from the stage, Yi Chen let go of the demon's slaughtering sword in his right hand and changed to grab Yang Ting's tail with both hands, fiercely smashing it down. Boom! The entire stage shook and a circular shockwave spread out. Outside the stage, outside the Golden Gate, everyone was dumbfounded. They could not close their eyes for a long time. The tyrannical dragon Yang Ting had actually been ruthlessly smashed into the stage like a meteor hammer. No matter how one looked at it, this was somewhat absurd. Correspondingly, it also brought them an intense shock. Their bodies felt like they had been electrocuted, and all their hair stood on end. This is too crazy. Only the tyrannical dragon Yang Ting has ever treated others like this. I never thought that someone would treat him like this. While the crowd was discussing Lu Wenxiu, Yan Feihua, Li Yifeng, Xiao Xiu, Zhao Wuk, and the rest looked at each other in dismay. They all knew that Yi Chen's eyesight was very powerful, but they did not expect it to be to this extent. In the eyes of others, Yang Ting's instantaneous attack with his tail was a killing move, but in the eyes of Yi Chen, it was a flaw. It was as if in front of him, not a single flaw could be exposed, or they would face a heavy blow from the opponent. His body floating in the air, Yi Chen raised his right hand high and suddenly waved it downward. The demon-slaughtering sword that Yi Chen had given up previously clanged and suddenly transformed into 81 sword shadows. The 81 sword shadows then condensed together, turning into a long sword with a restrained light. With a swoosh, it shot towards Yang Ting, who was lying on the stage. This series of actions was completed in an instant. Yang Ting's body straightened up, and the long sword pierced through his head. However, it only penetrated half an inch, and the long sword could no longer penetrate any further. A resounding dragon roar resounded, and the long sword was sent flying, landing in Yi Chen's hand. A steel-green aura gushed out, and Yang Ting slowly stood up. The wound on his head had already healed. I have not been treated like this for a long time. You are very lucky but also very unfortunate because you have angered me. Yang Ting's eyes gradually turned cold. This is a battle, there is only victory and defeat. Yi Chen sighed inwardly at his opponent's defense. That previous attack wasn't very powerful, but the 9 return to 1 sword technique was one of Yi Chen's killing moves. It was proficient in breaking through a single point, and its penetrative power was astonishing. Even if a group of elite geniuses stood in a row, it would still be able to penetrate through. However, facing Yang Ting, it could only slightly pierce through his skull. One could imagine how terrifying and exaggerated his opponent's defense was. This is indeed a battle, so what I say goes. A terrifying dragon aura erupted, and the void within a radius of 10,000 li instantly froze. Within this range, no matter what object it was, it would suffer an unimaginable pressure. Even light would slow down to the speed of light, and it would become slower and slower. This was the dragon aura belonging to a giant dragon, and it contained the will of a dragon. Boom 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 boom. At the same time as Yang Ting's dragon aura erupted, Yi Chen also raised his sword domain with all his strength. Sword domain was a sword artist's domain, and Yi Chen's sword domain had already reached the late 4th layer, only a step away from the peak. The intense dragon aura and sword domain clashed, immediately producing a popping sound. The two cancelled each other out, weakening each other. Yang Ting's dragon aura was cancelled out. It's the late 4th layer sword domain. Someone couldn't help but say. Domain was a martial artist's achievement. The stronger the domain, the higher the aptitude. For ordinary people, even if they spent 10 or 100 times more time, they still wouldn't be able to obtain a powerful domain. Life and Death Realm was divided into 9 layers, and so was domain. However, domain was even more difficult to raise than Life and Death Realm. In the universe, even some unparalleled 9th layer Life and Death Realm super experts couldn't raise their domain to the 9th layer. Most of them were stuck at the 7th layer, and those who could reach the 8th layer were few in number, not to mention the 9th layer. Yi Chen was only at the peak of 3rd layer Life and Death Realm, but he already possessed the late 4th layer sword domain. Among the 20 people present, there were many who had reached the 4th layer. Among these 14, 7 were at the early 4th layer, 5 were at the mid-4th layer, and 2 were at the late 4th layer. Adding Yi Chen, there were only 3. A wisp of a strange expression flashed on Yang Ting's face when he saw that Yi Chen possessed a late-stage 4th level sword domain. In the next moment, he didn't hesitate to blast a fist at Yi Chen, and the iron-black dragon-shaped energy within it was ghastly and murderous. 4th step Saint Dragon Fist. However, this lifelike iron-black dragon-shaped chi didn't even get close to Yi Chen before it was chopped into several pieces by a dark green sword screen, burning with dark green flames. Chapter 1073. Since the completion of the merciless water and fire, Yi Chen had never used its full power in a battle. Against Lu Wenxiu, he had only used 30% of its power, 40 to 50% against Xiao Xiu, 60% against Zhou Jian, and 80% against Xia Shaoshan. Right now, Yi Chen had increased the merciless water and fire's power to 90%. The dark green sword screen was simply invincible, nothing could stop it. One sword attack had cut through the black dragon-shaped chi. Yi Chen waved his arm, two dark green sword screens formed a cross shape and attacked towards Yang Ting. In the middle of the cross, a dark green light ball was born. The jade-green sword screen connected the heavens and the earth. Yang Ting had no time to dodge. He crossed his arms, and the muscles that were covered with dragon armor wriggled crazily, forming a dragon armor shield with a diameter of half a meter. The moment the dragon armor shield appeared, the jade-green cross-shaped sword screen slashed towards it, as fast as lightning. Swoosh! The merciless water and fire's power was unparalleled. Yang Ting was smashed into the ground from midair. Both of his feet rubbed against the ground as he slid down. Because of the huge force, the hard surface of the platform had been rubbed, leaving behind 2-inch deep mark. All of a sudden, rocks were flying everywhere, and dust was rising everywhere. The intense friction had caused both of his feet to burn with a red flame, and there was even lightning flashing around. After sliding for thousands of miles, Yang Ting could feel that the merciless water and fire's power had been reduced by more than half. It was no longer as unstoppable as before. When he was about to shatter the cross-shaped sword screen, a horrifying scene happened. The dragon armor-covered shield had a huge hole in the middle, and a dark green light ball had shot towards his chest. Not good! Yang Ting was shocked, and his whole body felt cold. Boom! The dark green light ball looked small, but the power it had exploded with was earth-shattering. Not only had it pierced through Yang Ting's chest, but it had also caused an explosion. In the next second, a constantly expanding dark green sphere covered Yang Ting. Inside the sphere, the sword chi resonated with each other, shuttling back and forth. Each sword chi was no weaker than a normal attack from Yi Chen. Under the attack of thousands of sword chi, Yang Ting's body was covered in blood, and the dragon armor was flying everywhere. How can there be such a terrifying killer move? Everyone stared blankly at this scene. In their line of sight, Yang Ting was enveloped by the jade-green sphere of light and carried into the sky. His entire body was suspended in the sphere of light, receiving the punishment of 1,000 cuts and death by 1,000 cuts. Puff! One of Yang Ting's arms was cut countless times by the sword chi before it was severed from the shoulder. Although it still contained the armored dragon force and dragon will, it was no longer under Yang Ting's control. Soon, the severed arm exploded from the outside to the inside, turning into dust. Still not giving up? Yi Chen frowned and stared at Yang Ting's abdomen. Yang Ting's abdomen swelled up slightly, and soon after, the swollen part rose to his chest. In the next moment, Yang Ting opened his mouth, and an iron-black light wave gushed out. Originally, the jade-green sphere of light was in a state of absolute balance. As long as the sword chi was not exhausted, it would never disappear. However, the appearance of the iron-black light wave broke this balance. The jade-green light wave twisted a few times before being penetrated by the light wave. The sword chi lost its connection and began to randomly cut through it. The range of the attack expanded to several tens of thousands of li, and correspondingly, its might was reduced by hundreds of thousands of times. Yang Ting will not lose. An angry roar resounded, accompanied by a wave of iron-black light wave. This was the innate ability of a dragon, Dragon Breath. Dragon Breath was actually the essence of dragon power, which was an even purer form of dragon power. Yang Ting was at the 4th layer of life and death realm, and his dragon breath was equivalent to the dragon power of a 5th layer. Once it was shot out, its destructive power would be astonishing, not inferior to Yang Ting's full power attack. At first, the dragon breath was only as thick as an arm, but it continued to expand. By the time it reached several thousand li away, it was already more than 100 meters thick. Dozens of dragon breaths shot out, flooding the eastern side of the arena, submerging Yi Chen. Creak! With a flicker of his right hand, Yi Chen caught a strand of sword qi. This strand of sword qi was hidden within the dragon breath, and was extremely sharp. However, as soon as it entered Yi Chen's hand, it immediately became gentle. This was because this was Yi Chen's sword qi. The current Yang Ting seemed incomparably brave and fierce, but in fact, he had already reached the end of his road. His body was filled with sword qi from the explosion of merciless water and fire, to the extent that even the dragon breath he shot out contained sword qi. Moreover, due to the impure nature of the dragon breath, its might was not at its peak, and its power was weakening very quickly. Of course, this was also Yang Ting's intelligence. He had borrowed the innate ability dragon breath to vent out the sword qi he couldn't clear out. Otherwise, if he used normal methods to clear it out, the time it would take would be hundreds of times longer. Unfortunately, the opponent had underestimated the destruction sword intent. Although the sword qi could be vented out through dragon breath, the destruction sword intent would still remain within the opponent's body. The destruction sword intent's power lay in its ability to transform other energies into destruction sword qi, such as Yang Ting's dragon power, blood qi, and even flesh. If it didn't eliminate the destruction sword intent, the effect would be minimal. Obviously, Yang Ting had also discovered this point. He no longer spat out his dragon breath, but instead instigated the giant dragon's will to sweep through his entire body, not letting go of any corner. It's too late. Yi Chen shook his head. He raised the demon's slaughtering sword high up and slashed down. A dark green sword screen flashed past. Yang Ting, who had used most of the giant dragon's will to eliminate the destruction sword intent, could no longer resist Yi Chen's merciless water and fire, and was cut into 2 halves by the sword. Yi Chen won. I really didn't expect that even tyrannical dragon Yang Ting would be defeated. That's right, there isn't a single wound on Yi Chen's body. This is a complete victory. If Yi Chen's previous achievements had shocked everyone, now everyone was already numb to it. Even someone as strong as Yang Ting didn't seem to pose any threat to his opponent, and was at a disadvantage from the beginning to the end. At the last moment, everyone thought that Yang Ting had a chance to make a comeback, but who would have thought that it was a scene of a cornered beast fighting? Now it's up to Ling Fifan and Agio. The battles would not be delayed because of the crowd's emotions. After the 9th and 10th battles ended, the 17th round began. Soon, Ling Fifan was matched against tyrannical dragon Yang Ting. Just like Yi Chen, as long as Ling Fifan defeated Yang Ting, he would undoubtedly be ranked in the top 3, provided that he had the strength to do so. Rank 4 Sacred Dragon Fist. Lifeless Azura Slash. The battle between Yang Ting and Ling Fifan was extremely intense. The dragon-shaped qi and the saber qi intertwined, creating a dazzling scene. Ling Fifan, it's impossible for you to defeat me with your lifeless Azura Slash. A huge saber mark pierced through the sky of the stage, sending Yang Ting flying. The dragon's shield on his left arm was sliced in half, but in the next second, the dragon's shield instantly recovered. True Azura Slash. Ling Fifan's expression remained unchanged. An Azura silhouette appeared behind him. The silhouette was 100 zhang tall, and the long saber was also 100 zhang long. With a single slash, the entire stage was dyed red. Yang Ting's entire body turned into a puddle of blood, his vitality completely extinguished. As I thought. Yi Chen stared at Ling Fifan. Just like him, Ling Fifan had been holding back his strength from the beginning. When he first met Ling Fifan, Yi Chen already had a feeling that he wouldn't be able to win even if he went all out. After such a long time, he had no idea how much Ling Fifan had improved. Fortunately, he had improved as well. Chapter 1074. So scary. This Ling Fifan still has the true Shura slash. Earlier, he killed Xia Shaoshan with one slash, and now he killed Yang Ting with one slash. Yang Ting is ranked second on the Sky King list, but this time, he is not even in the top 3. True Shura slash. This must be the evolved version of Shura slash. Could it be that there is still the true lifeless Shura slash? Everyone discussed spiritedly, making guesses in their hearts. Ling Fifan, who had defeated Yang Ting with the true Shura slash, landed on the stage with ease. Clank. His blade returned to its scabbard. Yang Ting turned around and looked at Yi Chen and Ajio. This is so interesting. He has actually reached the 3rd level of the selfless realm. This is a realm that even I have not reached. The peerless king's eyes flashed with excitement as he rubbed his chin. Battle after battle began, and battle after battle ended. When it came to the 9th battle of the 17th round, the crowd was in an uproar. The 9th battle was between Ajio and Yi Chen. Without Ling Fifan, this battle would definitely be the most intense one, and the one that would decide the winner. Nobody had expected the two to meet so soon. The peerless King Ajio is proficient in fist arts, palm arts, finger arts, and leg arts. It is said that he is also studying spear arts. In terms of the variety of arts he has learned, no one can beat him. However, up until now, he has only used the palm art, the galaxy godly palm, and the finger art, the extreme wind and water art. Even Xia Shaoshan could not force him to use his 3rd art. Yi Chen is amazing as well. One man and one sword, he made it to the top 3. Even Ling Fifan was not as amazing as him. The peerless Ajio and the supreme sword art Yi Chen, the two were about to battle, which made everyone's heart beat faster. They could not imagine what would happen next, and who would gain the upper hand. But one thing was for sure, this would be a battle that they would regret for the rest of their lives if they missed it. On the battling platform, Ajio and Yi Chen stood facing each other. Although the two didn't deliberately release their auras, everyone didn't know whether it was an illusion or not, but in their eyes, the figures of Yi Chen and Ajio were getting bigger and bigger, filling up their line of sight. It was as if the two of them were the only people left in the world, and everything else had disappeared. What a powerful mental pressure! Yen Feihua sucked in a breath of cold air. The two's essence, qi, and spirit were so powerful that it made one's hair stand on end. Before they even made a move, the spectators were already affected. As illusionists, Li Yifeng and Ji Qingyue had serious expressions on their faces. Naturally, they would not be a match for Ajio and Yi Chen. However, they did not expect that their spiritual cultivation had reached such a level. Just their spiritual cultivation alone was enough to create subtle hallucinations. This was a testament to their strength. The moment has finally come. Let's begin. Ajio had been looking forward to fighting with Yi Chen for a long time. When he first saw Yi Chen, he knew that the other party would not be a simple person. He would most likely be the one to walk to the end. Yes, let's begin. Yi Chen also longed for a battle with Ajio. The meaning of life was to challenge. If there was no opponent, it would be very sad and life would lose its meaning. Pop, pop. Both of them released their domains at almost the same time. Ajio's domain was dazzling and colorful, like a dreamy starry sky. Yi Chen's sword domain was full of sharpness and fierceness. When the two clashed, the void resounded with the sound of countless bubbles bursting. Galaxy Godly Palm. As soon as the domain was released, Ajio immediately launched an attack. The blue galaxy-like palm energy roared and rushed towards Yi Chen, like a waterfall flowing across the galaxy. Rip! The sound of cloth tearing rang out. Yi Chen held the Demon Slayer sword with both hands and slashed the blue galaxy. Ajio purely wanted to test Yi Chen's bottom line. He repeatedly performed the galaxy godly palm. With him as the center, countless blue galaxies rushed towards Yi Chen, wave after wave, endlessly. Yi Chen's movement technique was elegant and swift. Every time he moved, he would definitely split open a blue galaxy. Gradually, Yi Chen was less than 10 miles away from a Ju. Absolute feng shui. Seeing that the galaxy godly palm could not do anything to Yi Chen, a Ju's expression did not change. He raised his right hand's index and middle fingers and jabbed towards Yi Chen. A sense of danger flashed through Yi Chen's mind as he shifted dozens of meters to the side, avoiding that finger attack. He looked sideways and saw a bright white light that was sharper than any blade. The white light landed on the surface of the platform. Swoosh! 100-meter-long crack appeared on the surface of the platform. Such a strong killing power! The second martial art is already so powerful, then what about the third and fourth? Everyone was shocked. The contest stage was not an ordinary object. It was already amazing to leave a mark on it, but a Ju was actually able to cut a 100-meter-long crack on it. Xia Shaoshan raised his eyebrows. He was defeated by this absolute feng shui. Although it was a finger technique, it was sharper than any martial art. Even his killing intent oscillation fist could be cut open. Poochie poochie poochie, his figure flickered. Both of Audio's hands were like butterflies flying through flowers. One after another, sharp white aura cut towards Yi Chen. The power is not bad. Yi Chen's figure flickered as well. A dark green sword curtain appeared. He slashed horizontally and vertically. The entire center of the contest stage was under Yi Chen's attack range. Although that sharp white aura was extremely sharp and could cut through anything, compared to the dark green sword curtain, it was still a bit weaker. Of course, Yi Chen had also increased the merciless water and fire's power to 90%. Ding, ding, dang. The two fought from the sky to the ground, and from the ground to the edge of the contest stage. The battle was extremely intense. The absolute feng shui cannot do anything to Yi Chen. Now, a Ju should be using his third martial art, right? Someone said with anticipation. Of course, but I wonder if the third martial art is a fist art or a leg art? It should be a fist art. It is said that some people have seen a Ju use a fist art, but no one has ever seen a Ju use a leg art. It has appeared. It is indeed a fist art. Cries of surprise resounded. On the contest stage, a scarlet halo appeared behind a Ju. As the halo appeared, his aura soared. He punched out, shaking the entire contest stage. The scarlet flame light exploded like a star exploding or a supernova. Red giant star fist. Using a fist art to create a star explosion? A strange light flickered in Yi Chen's eyes. Although the majority of powerful life and death kings could shatter stars, it did not mean that they could ignore the might of a star explosion. For example, when a bomb did not explode, one could shatter it with a stomp. But once the bomb exploded, one would be killed in an instant. Now it is time to test your bottom line, a Ju said inwardly. Seeing the flame light getting closer and closer, Yi Chen's face did not have the slightest trace of panic or impatience. Holding the demon slaughtering sword tightly, Yi Chen raised it over his head and let out a low roar before slashing out. Merciless water and fire's full power was unleashed. Bang! This time, it was not a dark green sword screen, but a dark green light sphere. The dark green light sphere shot out, annihilating everything in its path, including that powerful flame light. Not good. A Ju was startled. It was the same sword art, but this one was several times more powerful than the previous one. His red giant fist couldn't stop it in the slightest. Subduing Dragon Divine Kick. Without any hesitation, a Ju used a leg art, which was also his most powerful martial art, Subduing Dragon Divine Kick. Subduing Dragon Divine Kick, as the name implied, this leg art's might could even subdue giant dragons. Giant dragons were not limited to iron-armored giant dragons. In fact, Iron-armored giant dragons were only at the bottom of the giant dragons. They were ordinary giant dragons, and above them were crystal giant dragons, golden giant dragons, and dark giant dragons. The shadow of the leg, which was filled with a metallic luster, was as long as a street. The leg kicked the dark green ball of light. Rumble! A powerful explosion spread out, and the steel leg's shadow shattered inch by inch. Countless sword chi slashed over. The dark green light sphere looked like a light sphere from the outside, but in fact it was a light sphere formed by countless sword chi. Once the light sphere was destroyed, one would have to face the light sphere's decomposition and the countless sword chi's attack. A Jew didn't have time to use any martial arts to block the sword chi. He could only cross his arms and curl up his body, trying to reduce the area of attack on his body. Chi, chi, chi. One after another, the sword chi slashed on a Jew's protective Zhen Yuan. Gradually, the protective Zhen Yuan became thinner and more unstable. With a pop, the protective Zhen Yuan was broken. In the next moment, countless sparks appeared on a Jew's body, which was caused by the friction between the sword chi and his body. What kind of sword art is this? It broke through a Jew's red giant fist and subduing dragon divine kick in a row. Unbelievable! Unbelievable! I can't even imagine how powerful this sword attack is. It seems like a Jew won't be able to hold on for much longer. In everybody's eyes, a Jew was already at the end of his rope. Numerous sword scars appeared on his body. These sword scars were wriggling as if they were alive. Of course, everybody was also amazed at a Jew's powerful defense, which seemed to be even higher than Yang Ting's. If it were an ordinary person, they would have been torn apart by the sword chi long ago. Late rank 6 spirit body. Yi Chen immediately guessed that a Jew's spirit body had already reached late rank 6. A rank 6 spirit body had a powerful ability to absorb damage. For example, Su Qing's spirit body had reached rank 6. However, Su Qing was only at early rank 6, and his cultivation base had not reached the first layer of life and death realm. He was far from being comparable to a Jew. Raising the demon's slaughtering sword once again, Yi Chen slashed at a Jew. Swish! The dark green light sphere was as fast as a flickering light. The closer it got to the opponent, the larger its diameter became. Trying to dodge it with one's own speed was almost impossible. First of all, the light sphere's speed was close to light speed. Adding on the fact that the range of the light sphere was extremely large, one would have to surpass light speed to avoid it. Otherwise, one would inevitably be affected by the aftershock. Just as a Jiu was about to be defeated by this sword strike, 3 Agios suddenly appeared in front of him. The 3 Agios stood in a row, from left to right, and separately displayed the Galaxy Divine Palm, Extreme Feng Shui, and Red Giant Star Fist. The 3 great martial arts joined together and shattered the dark green light ball. Full battle power. Yi Chen shockingly discovered that these 3 Agios possessed the same battle power as the main body. There was no difference at all. The combined attack of 3 Agios could indeed shatter his merciless water and fire. Chapter 1075. Very powerful. You actually forced out my martial phantom. A powerful chi energy erupted, and the wriggling sword scars on Agio's body flew out like swimming fish, revolving around Agio. In the next moment they disappeared without a trace. Taking a step forward, Agio's figure flickered and appeared on the right side of the 3 Agios, standing in the 4th position. The 4 Agios had the same aura and battle strength. 8 gazes locked onto Yi Chen. Not a will projection or a consciousness projection. What are they? Yi Chen creased his brows. These 3 Agios that suddenly appeared couldn't be a will projection or a consciousness projection. The will projection only had 10% of the battle power of the main body, while the consciousness projection only had 30%. However, these 3 Agios had the same battle power as the main body, giving off an intense feeling of danger. What? 4 Agios? 4 times the battle strength. 1 is already so powerful, what would 4 be like? Is this Agio's true battle strength? Simply unimaginable. The spectators were stupefied, their faces full of disbelief. It wasn't that they hadn't seen powerful killer moves before. A 7th layer life and death titled Monarch's killer move was 10 times or even 100 times stronger than theirs. However, they had never seen a killer move that could produce 3 doppelgangers with the same battle strength as the main body. Yi Chen, if you don't have a stronger ability, then this is the end. The 4 Agios simultaneously spoke and launched their move. Star River Palm, Absolute Wind and Water, Red Giant Fist, and Tyrannical Subduing Dragon Divine Kick. 4 killer moves bombarded Yi Chen side by side. Previously, the 3 killer moves combined could already break through Merciless Water and Fire. Now, the combined might of the 4 killer moves was at least several times stronger than Merciless Water and Fire, and this was only because of the internal friction. As you wish. Yi Chen's fluttering black hair and clothes suddenly stopped. The chaotic chi energy in the surroundings seemed to have been cut off and stopped in the void. Within Yi Chen's sword domain, everything was in a state of stillness. The only thing that didn't stop was Yi Chen's thoughts and himself. Instant sword domain. The sword domain derived from the momentary brilliance had the effect of freezing space. Agio's 4 killer moves instantly entered Yi Chen's sword domain. In the next moment, the 4 killer moves slowed down but did not stop. The distance is too far. Yi Chen gave up on using momentary brilliance and chose to use Merciless Water and Fire to break the 4 killer moves that had their speed greatly reduced. What is this? The ability to stop space? A strange look flashed in Agio's eyes. That's right, it was this ability that broke my 9-star alignment. Lu Wenxiu suddenly understood. His strength was far inferior to Jiu and Yi Chen. Therefore, at that time, Yi Chen had only slightly used this ability. Since the process had only lasted for a split second, it was so fast that he didn't even have time to react before disappearing. Thus, he couldn't figure out what went wrong. The ability to stop space? Interesting, but it does not seem to be able to stop my killer move. Jiu regained his composure and said, Indeed. Yi Chen did not deny it. Instant sword domain was ultimately derived from the momentary brilliance, and the ability to stop space was less than 30% of the momentary brilliance's strength. It was more than enough to deal with others, but it was far from enough to deal with an expert like Jiu. It could not completely stop the opponent's killer move. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. Phantoms flashed, and the 4 Agios pulled apart from each other and attacked Yi Chen from 4 different angles. Majestic palm energy, sharp white light, explosive fist energy, and extremely destructive leg shadows. Even if the 4 killer moves were separated, they still had great power, and defense alone could not block them. The jade green sword screen stretched horizontally, and Yi Chen broke the blue palm energy, sharp finger energy, and explosive fist energy, but that was all. Yi Chen could not block the most destructive leg shadow in time, and his left arm was kicked. The sound of bones breaking resounded, and Yi Chen's left arm was broken. Only the bones of the left arm were broken. Agio's eyes narrowed. He knew how powerful the dragon-subduing divine kick was. This was a leg art that could subdue a giant dragon of the same realm, but when it kicked Yi Chen, it actually only broke the bones of his left arm. How strong was his defense? Even he and Yang Ting seemed to be much weaker than him in terms of defense. Yi Chen shook his head. He naturally knew that his defense was unbelievably strong, and this was mainly because his immortal sword intent had already reached the 7th step, which was equivalent to an ordinary 8th step sword intent, and an ordinary 8th step sword intent could automatically form a protective sword intent. Compared to a 6th step spirit body, the protective sword intent was even stronger. Although it was not as strong as a 7th step spirit body, it was definitely equivalent to a peak 6th step spirit body. In addition, the sword domain also slowed down the attacking speed of the dragon-subduing divine kick, causing the power of this kick to decrease a lot. Being able to break the bones of his left arm with one kick was enough to prove the power of the dragon-subduing divine kick. Be careful. The broken bones of the left arm were just a small injury, and the martial will contained in it was not difficult to remove. After a breath, Yi Chen had already recovered. Raising the demon-slaughtering sword high up, Yi Chen slashed towards Ajio's body. Whoosh! The dark green light ball was like a light wave as it slashed out horizontally. Not good. Ajio immediately knew what Yi Chen was thinking. The opponent clearly knew the characteristics of the martial arts phantom. The other three Ajio could only use the galaxy palm, extreme wind and water fist, and only the main body could use the most powerful dragon-subduing divine kick. Therefore, the opponent chose to ignore the other three killing moves and attack his main body. Although he knew what Yi Chen was thinking, Ajio did not have a better way to deal with it. Facing Yi Chen's full power attack, Ajio chose to meet it head-on. The result was obvious. The dragon-subduing divine kick was not a match for the merciless water and fire. The leg shadow was destroyed, and Ajio was killed by countless sword chi, each of which contained a destructive sword intent that was extremely difficult to get rid of. Of course, Yi Chen also suffered from Ajio's counterattack. The other three Ajio's killing moves bombarded Yi Chen's body. The galaxy palm shattered Yi Chen's protective Jin Yuan, the extreme wind and water fist cut open a wound on Yi Chen's body, and the red star fist scorched Yi Chen's chest black, emitting bursts of smoke. However, with the isolation of the protective sword intent, these injuries could not be any lighter. They only looked a bit battered, which was undoubtedly 10 times better than Ajio. What kind of battle is this? One has 4 times the battle power, and the other has a defense even stronger than Yang Ting's. That sword move is even more powerful than all of Ajio's killing moves. They're too strong. Only today did I understand the meaning of, there's always someone better than you out there. In terms of attack, no one can compare to them. In terms of defense, no one can compare to them. They're simply 2 monsters among monsters. Everyone was already stunned. Ajio's martial arts phantom let them know what battle power was, and Yi Chen's sword move and defense told them what the strongest attack and defense were. Chapter 1076. Ignoring the small injuries on his body, Yi Chen continued to attack Ajio with merciless water and fire. The dark green light sphere was like a peerless sword artist. Once it struck the opponent, it would erupt with millions of sword chi. Ajio had just expelled the destruction sword intent, and before he could recover, he was struck by the dark green light sphere and suffered countless sword chi cuts. If this goes on, I'll lose sooner or later. Although Ajio was confident in his defense, and his late 6th step spirit body could absorb a portion of the damage, the sword chi was too powerful. The destruction sword intent contained within was like maggots in one's bones, becoming more and more difficult to remove. If this continued, the destruction sword intent would accumulate more and more, and only defeat awaited him. Seems like I can only enter Berserk realm. Making up his mind, Ajio's aura erupted. What? His battle strength can still increase? Look, Ajio's aura is changing. What a frightening aura! On the battling platform, the aura on Ajio's body instantly turned frightening. The originally pure Jin Yuan aura had now turned into a dark red ruthless aura. This aura was so frightening that it could cause people to hallucinate. It was as if countless demons were emerging from this aura, wanting to devour people. Not to mention contending against Ajio, ordinary life and death kings wouldn't even be able to approach him. This frightening aura could make them fall into a nightmare. Along with the aura change, Ajio's eyes turned blood red, shooting out a blood beam several thousand meters long. It's even more berserk than my killing intent fist technique. Xia Shaoshan creased his brows. Selfless berserk realm. Among the crowd, only Lu Wenxiu knew what was happening to Ajio. Selfless Berserk Realm was divided into 3 stages. The first stage was the ordinary stage, and the second stage had 2 paths: Selfless Heavenly Eye and Selfless Body. Selfless Berserk Realm was not the third stage of Selfless Realm, but a mutation of the second stage. In order to enter this realm, one had to suffer an extremely powerful stimulation and fall into the Selfless Berserk Realm. Yi Chen had once entered this realm, and now, he had 30 to 40% chance of doing so. However, Jiu had clearly reached the stage where he could use Berserk Realm. Jiu's eruption had undoubtedly caused the spectators to pant. They had not expected that Jiu would still have a trump card up his sleeve. The battle had progressed to this point, and it had already exceeded their imagination. They were completely unable to predict how the battle would develop. The strength of these 2 people far exceeded their level. Jiu roared, and the destructive sword intent attached to his body dissipated into nothingness. In the next moment, Jiu's figure flickered, and the 3 martial arts phantoms merged into his body, and then they transformed again. Yi Chen, take this. With bloodshot eyes, the 4 Jius attacked Yi Chen together. The energy has increased by several times. Yi Chen clearly sensed that the space-stopping power of the Sword Realm could no longer restrain the opponent's ace attack. Although the space-stopping power was powerful, it had its limit. Back when he had rushed through the dead end of Elysium, that 6th-level Life and Death Realm Demon King had easily broken through his space-stopping power. The reason was that the opponent's energy had already surpassed his space-stopping power. And now, Jiu's energy was also approaching this level. The combined ace attack was about to hit Yi Chen. Once hit, even if he had the immortal sword intent to protect his body, he would still be blasted into pieces. However, the opponent had a trump card, and so did Yi Chen. Instead of retreating, Yi Chen rushed forward. Is Yi Chen crazy? Everyone could not understand. Ling Fifen's eyes turned serious, and he was slightly confused. The Crimson Demon Slayer sword drew a mysterious trajectory in the void. As the trajectory was perfected, the void came to a stop inch by inch. At first, there was still chi energy flowing in all directions, but when the trajectory was completed, all the chi energy within 3,000 feet floated up, like dazzling auroras, like ribbons of light hanging in the air. Correspondingly, Jiu's 4 ace attacks also gradually stopped. Although they were not completely still, there was no difference. They looked like crawling tortoises. Meanwhile, the tip of the demon slaughtering sword in Yi Chen's hand released an extremely dazzling radiance. This radiance was so resplendent that everyone was attracted by it, and their souls seemed to be sucked into it. Without a sound, the 4 ace attacks were destroyed. A crimson sword light cut through the void and slashed at Jiu's chest. Clang! Sparks flew everywhere as Jiu was sent flying while spurting out blood. Space profound sword move. Jiu was inwardly shocked, but he soon realized that Yi Chen's sword realm contained the space-stopping power. This power clearly came from the space profound, and the space-stopping power of this move was several times stronger than the sword realm. The distance is too far. Yi Chen shook his head. The range of the moment of glory was only 3,000 zhang, which was close to 20 li, and the distance between him and Jiu was more than 20 li, so he was unable to affect the other party. In addition, the moment of glory had used up a lot of energy to defeat the 4 ace attacks, so only about 30% of the sword energy was left. If it was at a close distance, this sword could completely kill the other party. Whiz! As this thought flashed through his mind, Yi Chen quickly flashed out. With the help of the sword realm, his speed had reached his limit, and he was like a ray of sword light. I can't get too close to him. Jiu borrowed the sword energy that had struck his body and frantically retreated. For a while, Yi Chen was actually unable to close the distance between them. Suddenly, Yi Chen shook his hand and threw out the demon slaughtering sword. With a flash of thought, the demon slaughtering sword transformed into 81 sword images, which then condensed into one and shot towards Jiu. 9 returned to one sword art. With a clang, while retreating, Audiobook could only use 70 to 80% of his movement technique. The sword pierced through his protective true essence, and his body staggered, stopping for a moment. Clang! At this moment, a clear sword cry rang out. Audiobook only felt his vision blur, and then he lost consciousness. As expected of a heavenly king-grade sword, Yi Chen sized up the dragon's spring sword in his hand. This was the first time he had used it against an enemy since it was completed. Needless to say, its power was several times stronger than the demon slaughtering sword. More importantly, using this sword to perform sword arts was extremely smooth, and he almost couldn't feel the existence of any resistance. Not to mention Audiobook, even Yi Chen himself was very surprised. Can sword arts be this fast? The moment of glory could make space freeze, but for the spectators, they couldn't feel the power of space freezing. They only felt the scene suddenly stop, and the next moment, Audiobook was cut into pieces by the incomparably brilliant sword chi. Even the undying body couldn't reform his body, and when he reappeared, he was outside the battling platform. Audiobook lost. Yi Chen won. This was Yi Chen's 17th consecutive victory. Chapter 1077. I didn't expect King Peerless Audiobook to be unable to stop him. In my opinion, no one will be able to stop him in this divine trials, Yan Feihua said slowly as she sized up the somewhat despondent Audiobook. The Speed Wolf King next to him said, "Isn't there Ling Fifan?" Ling Fifan's true Azura slash had defeated Yang Ting with a single slash. Yan Feihua shook his head and said, "It's very difficult. Ling Fifan is known as the lifeless swordsman and his saber art is well-tempered, but he may not be able to defeat Audiobook, let alone Yi Chen. Moreover, Yi Chen's defense is the best among everyone here. Just this point alone is enough to make people despair. It's very unlikely that Ling Fifan can defeat him." As a swordsman, Yi Chen not only had a strong attack, but his defense was also unparalleled. It could be said to be a miracle. Not only Yan Feihua, but most people also thought that Yi Chen was invincible. The 17th round ended, and the 18th round began. In this round, Yi Chen's opponent was Soul Breaker Spear Jiang Hao. Jiang Hao immediately admitted defeat. Soon, Ling Fifan faced Audiobook. Audiobook had already recovered from the shadow of his defeat. He was not a person who took it to heart, but he did not believe that he had lost to Yi Chen. After going on stage, he became the unparalleled Audiobook again. Dragon Subduing Divine Kick. True Shura Slash. In the blink of an eye, the battle between the two of them had entered into a white-hot stage. Audiobook's dragon-subduing divine kick was invincible and incomparably vigorous, possessing the might to subdue an enormous dragon, whereas Ling Fifan's true Azura Slash had touched upon the third stage of the Anatta state, possessing an unimaginable explosive force. The two killer moves collided together, causing the entire arena to shake incessantly. In the end, Audiobook cast out a martial art phantom, and the four Jios joined forces to attack Ling Fifan. True Lifeless Azura Slash. In addition to the true Azura Chop, Ling Fifan also hid a terrifying killer move. With a flash of blade light, Audiobook's four killer moves were dispersed. "Alright." Audiobook cheered loudly, his battle prowess soaring to the limit, instantly entering the Anatta rampage state. After 5 minutes, Ling Fifan was defeated by Audiobook. For Yi Chen, the 19th round no longer holds any meaning. Everyone sighed with emotion. Ling Fifan had been defeated by Audiobook, and most likely, he would not be a match for Yi Chen. Martial artists had their own strengths and weaknesses, but that was only relative to a small number of people. Most people still spoke with their battle prowess. As expected, in the 19th round, Ling Fifan lost to Yi Chen again. With this, the trials of God came to an end. The first place was Yi Chen. In second place was King Peerless Jiao. The third was the lifeless swordsman, Ling Fifan. The fourth was tyrannical dragon Yang Ting. Fifth, Xia Shaoshan. The sixth was the Green Lightning King, Gu Qingshuer. The 7th was the Black Destruction King, Zhou Jian. 8th, Seamless Illusionist Li Yifeng. The 9th was Azure Dragon Swordsman Xiao Xiu. Lu Wenxiu and Yan Feihua tied for 10th place. As for the others, they were teleported out the moment the last battle of the 19th round ended. It's over. The ranking this time has been overturned. There are 2 newcomers in the top 10. One is number 1 and the other is number 5. Zhou Jian, the Black Destruction King, was pushed down from number 3 to number 7. Azure Dragon Swordsman Xiao Xiu is so powerful, but he is only number 9. Lu Wenxiu and Yan Feihua are the most dangerous, and they are tied for 10th place. Jiu is known to be unparalleled under the heavens. Unfortunately, Yi Chen's sword arts have surpassed that. 19 rounds, 19 wins. Not a single one of them could pose too much of a threat to him. Even Jiu could only cause him some insignificant injuries. The strongest attack and the strongest defense. He deserves the title of number 1. Outside the Golden Gate, everyone was talking about it. As the eliminated ones, they were already satisfied to be able to see such a peak battle. Many of them even had an epiphany and had made great progress in their martial arts. Young Master Yi is number 1. Lan Xian'er was a bit dazed. Although she was full of confidence in Yi Chen, in her opinion, Yi Chen being in the top 5 was already amazing. Defeating Jiu and becoming number 1 was something she had never expected. "Sister, you really brought back an amazing person," Lan Xian'er murmured. Lan Xian'er murmured. If it wasn't for her sister Lan Xian'er, she definitely wouldn't have crossed paths with Yi Chen. Life was so wonderful. Every action had its own cause and effect. The ship of God arrived. The eliminated ones boarded the ship and were sent in the direction of God's planet. "Congratulations, you are really amazing. You are the swordsman with the most potential I have ever seen." Jiu walked over and greeted Yi Chen. "Same to you. Your martial path phantom is what surprised me." Martial path phantom was a divine technique. As long as one's combat ability was strong enough, the martial path phantom created would be strong enough. It would never be outdated. I obtained this martial art from a strange place. It has already been integrated into my blood. Jiu revealed some information about martial path phantom. Your momentary brilliance shocked me. The ability to stop space has already involved the rules of the universe. The power of the rules was extremely powerful. As the space profound progressed, the ability to stop space would inevitably become more frightening. Once Yi Chen's space profound reached completion, it was unknown what realm it would reach. Yi Chen was about to speak when the sky suddenly darkened. Unknowingly, a huge ship of God appeared in the sky. "The ship of God is here." Jiu raised his head. "I wonder what kind of place God's paradise is." Yi Chen had heard from Lan Xian'er that after passing the God trial field, one would have the qualifications to enter God's paradise. However, she didn't know what kind of place it was or what miraculous things were inside. Lu Wenxiu walked over and explained, "God's paradise is a place that can raise one's strength. At the same time, it is also the place with the most geniuses. The God trial field is held once every 10 years. Every 10 years, about 10 geniuses will enter God's paradise. My brother is one of them. According to him, in God's paradise, one who is over 500 years old or whose cultivation base has reached the 7th layer can no longer stay. Therefore, in the past 500 years, there should be about 500 people in God's paradise. But, according to my brother, there are only 300 now. Can't one leave God's paradise without being over 500 years old or at the 7th layer?" Yi Chen asked. Lu Wenxiu said, "That's not the case. Apart from the first time, one has to pay a certain amount of shinbi to enter and leave God's paradise. Shinbi is the currency of God's paradise, and is indispensable." "Shinbi?" Yi Chen currently had 29 shinbi. Being first in the running competition gave him 10 shinbi, and winning one battle gave him 1 shinbi. After 19 rounds, Yi Chen had 19 shinbi, making it 29 shinbi in total. At this moment, Aju said solemnly, "Here, we might be at the top. But, in God's paradise we might be at the bottom. I've long been looking forward to God's paradise, but I don't know the real situation inside." As he spoke, Ajio's solemn eyes burned with an intense fighting spirit. "My brother said that although God's paradise can raise one's strength, it is also very cruel." Slowly letting out a breath, Lu Wenxiu said. A flight of stairs extended from the ship of God, and the 11 of them walked up. Soon, the ship of God took off, flying toward an unknown place. Chapter 1078. On the deck of the boat of God, the 11 of them were talking about the paradise of God. As far as I know, the paradise of God has an Upanishad tower. Aside from time and space, it has every kind of ultimacy. As long as you pay a certain amount of shinbi, you can enter the Upanishad tower to study. Inside, almost every genius has completed 4 or 5 ultimacies. The speaker was Yen Feihua. The Upanishad tower requires shinbi, but there are other places where you can get shinbi, such as the God of War Pagoda, the Survival Pagoda, and the Hunting Pagoda. In short, shinbi is very useful in the paradise of God. With shinbi, your strength can increase by leaps and bounds. Without shinbi, you can't even take a step forward, and you'll soon be surpassed by others. Green Lightning King Gu Qingshu also said, "The paradise of God is good, but once you go there, you'll know that there are always people better than you. If nothing unexpected happens, we'll be taught a lesson the first time we enter the paradise of God. This lesson isn't an insult, but a lesson to let us know that we're just an ordinary member of the paradise of God. There's nothing to be proud of." Zhou Jian glanced at Yi Chen. Yi Chen smiled faintly. The other party was probably telling him that even though he was first in the divine trial field, he was only first among them. In the paradise of God there was no lack of geniuses. Moreover, those geniuses cultivated 10 times more than them. Not long after, the ship of God stopped. Below them was a dreamlike paradise. The paradise was boundless, and there were misty clouds above it. The entire paradise was faintly discernible, like a mirage. It could be seen, but it could not be touched. It was very mysterious. When the stairs passed through the clouds, rippling patterns appeared. It wasn't hard to imagine that without the stairs, even if they could see the paradise, they wouldn't be able to enter it. "Let's go down." Ajia was the first to go down. The long stairs extended all the way to the ground. As they walked down, the 11 of them looked around. What a majestic tower! That must be the God of War Pagoda. There are people fighting over there. They seem to be holding sticks. Are they hitting balls with sticks? That's a thunderbolt ball. It can train attack speed, reaction speed, and strength technique. To the 11 of them, everything in the paradise of God was so novel. Their hearts, which were as calm as still water, began to ripple. Buzz. The moment the 11 of them landed, a figure of light surrounded by a halo appeared in front of them. "Hello, I am the God of the paradise of God, the manager of this place. Welcome to the paradise of God." Gods. Everyone was shocked. Although godly spirits were not real gods, they had the word God in their names, so they were certainly not ordinary. They wondered whether a godly spirit or a 9th-layer life and death realm warrior would be stronger. From the moment you stepped into the paradise of God, you became a member of the paradise of God. The trial talisman is your paradise badge. It has many uses, as you will find out in the future. In the paradise of gods, there are no mandatory rules. Everything is voluntary. However, once you reach the 5th level of the God of War Pagoda or the 4th level of the Survival Tower, you must enter the Hunting Pagoda once every 3 months. Inside the Hunting Pagoda, you will encounter other members of the Paradise of True Gods. Your mission is to hunt them. Of course, it is also very likely that you will be hunted by them. For every enemy you hunt and obtain their Paradise Badge, you will obtain a certain amount of shinbi. The higher the level of their badge, the more shinbi you will obtain. The figure of light who claimed to be a god explained. Hunting tower? Other members of the paradise of true gods? There should be different levels in there, right? Gu Qingshu asked. The figure of light nodded. Indeed, the hunting pagoda has 6 floors, and every 2 floors have a different level. The first and second floors are primary, the third and fourth floors are intermediate, and the fifth and sixth floors are advanced. Among them, the first, third, and fifth floors are for individual hunting, while the second, fourth, and sixth floors are for team hunting. Accordingly, the badges are divided into 3 levels: primary, intermediate, and advanced. Once you reach the 5th floor or the 4th floor of the survival tower, your badges will be upgraded to primary badges. Once you reach the 7th floor or the 6th floor of the survival tower, your badges will be upgraded to intermediate badges. Once you reach the 9th floor or the 8th floor of the survival tower, your badges will be upgraded to the highest level. Different badges have different treatments in the paradise of gods. For example, entering the Upanishad tower costs 10 shinbi per day for a normal badge, 9 for a primary badge, 7 for an intermediate badge, and 5 for an advanced badge. Are the only ways to earn shinbi by entering the God of War pagoda, the survival tower, and the hunting pagoda? The one who asked the question was Xiao Xiu. That's right. Apart from these 3 towers, there are no other ways to obtain shinbi, and shinbi can't be transferred between people. It's just a number, not a physical object. In the paradise of gods, without shinbi, it's hard to move even an inch. With shinbi, you can enter the Upanishad tower to comprehend the profound you want to comprehend. You can also enter the Tower of Time and adjust the time ratio to 1 to 10 or 1 to 100. After staying here for a few years, you'll realize that your progress here is 10 times or even 100 times faster than outside. Therefore, you must seize every opportunity to earn shinbi. Following the light figure's explanation, everyone had a new understanding of the importance of shinbi. In short, shinbi was a necessity to ensure their progress. An ordinary Paradise of Gods badge would cost 10 shinbi per day to enter the Upanishad tower, which meant 300 shinbi per month. This wasn't a small number. Among them, the one with the most shinbi was Yi Chen, who only had 29 shinbi. Ajio had 28 shinbi. The others either had more than 20 or a dozen shinbi. The one with the least shinbi didn't even have a single shinbi. Therefore, even Yi Chen could only stay in the Upanishad tower for 2 days. The Tower of Time was even more magical. It could adjust the time ratio to 1 to 10, so 1 day inside was 10 days. If it was adjusted to 1 to 100, then 1 day inside was 100 days. If one stayed long enough, such as 1 month or 3 months, then it would be extremely terrifying. They were all top geniuses, so a few years was enough for them to make rapid progress. With the Tower of Time, they could treat a few years as dozens or even hundreds of years. However, it wasn't hard to imagine that such a magical Tower of Time would require a lot of shinbi. The current amount of shinbi they had wasn't enough. Worthy of the paradise of gods. Compared to it, the desolate star pales in comparison. Yi Chen sighed inwardly. All right, there aren't many rules in the paradise of gods. Now you can choose your own residence. Currently, there are only 380 people in the paradise of gods, so there are more than 100 empty residences. You can choose according to your preferences. However, as the manager of this place, I have to warn you that you are still very weak. Don't have any conflicts with the senior members of the paradise of gods, at least for the time being. I wish you all a pleasant life. After saying this, the light figure turned into specks of light and disappeared.